Chapter 413. Not long ago, when Leng Shiqi met Nine Leaf only said a few words about what he had experienced, so Leng Shiqi did not know what had happened. Now that he heard King Tai's words, he knew the whole story. Leng Shiqi admired Nine Leaf's ability to cause trouble. She actually went to the East County and provoked several spirit cultivator sects. She was even able to escape from the many experts who were chasing her. If she had not deliberately been caught by Hong Guangji, she would not have been caught by anyone. When these things happened, Leng Shiqi was either far away in Zhulu country or in closed-door cultivation, so he did not know that Nine Leaf had caused so much trouble. Secondly, Leng Shiqi felt that Hong Guangji was a little confused. Nine Leaf had stirred up trouble in the East County. Not only had those forces lost a lot of resources, they had also lost a lot of disciples. In the end, Wind and Thunder Tower had taken advantage of them. Just as King Tai had said, Hong Guangji should not have held this demon-slaughtering assembly. It would have been better if he had secretly handed Nine Leaf to those sects in exchange for some resources. Wind and Thunder Tower had invited spirit cultivators to participate in the demon-slaughtering assembly to increase their reputation. But if the forces of the East County came to cause trouble, not only would they not be able to increase their reputation, they would also lose face if they did not handle it well. As for King Tai's request, if it was in the past, Leng Shiqi would definitely not agree, because this would involve him in the conflict between the spirit cultivator sections. The discipline division was in charge of these things, so it was fine if they interfered, but the Dark Thunder Guards did not want to blindly interfere. However, Leng Shiqi thought that Nine Leaf had asked him to help stall Hong Guangji, so his thoughts began to become active. King Tai saw that Leng Shiqi had fallen into hesitation. He knew that he could not move Leng Shiqi with his mouth, so he continued to transmit his voice. Lord Lu, don't worry, I will definitely not let Leng Shiqi get into trouble. Moreover, whether it is the Discipline Commission or the Hidden Thunder Guards, they all hope that the North County will be peaceful. They don't want to do anything. Just not make any mistakes. If Lord Lu can help me settle this matter smoothly today, I will owe Lord Lu a favor. Hearing this, Leng Shiqi was also tempted. The favor of the Commissioner of Discipline Department, a master at the 9th level of Gang Spirit Realm, was too valuable. If this favor was used well, it could play a crucial role. Leng Shiqi nodded gently. Seeing this, Wang Taiyang smiled. Although Leng Shiqi's cultivation was not very high, his status was not low. He definitely had a say here. The words of the Discipline Commission and the Dark Thunder Guards, who were in charge of the North County, at the same time, had a great deterrent effect. King Tai was even more confident about today's mission. Just as they were secretly discussing a deal, Hong Guangji stood up, and the others all tacitly stopped talking. The spectators on the Wind Thunder platform quieted down as well. They knew that the Demon Slaughter Conference was about to begin. Hong Guangji's old face was flushed at this time. His mouth moved slightly, and his voice became clear and came into everyone's ears. Following that, he began to speak slowly like a leader. From time to time, he would list out some of Nine Leaf's crimes. He also described how hard they had worked and how great of a price they had paid to capture Nine Leaf. In short, he described how Nine Leaf had committed the most heinous crimes, and how they were righteous and awe-inspiring to get rid of evil for the people. Half an hour had passed since Hong Guangji opened his mouth. Leng Shiqi even planned to divide part of his consciousness to deduce the spiritual skills. At this moment, a group of people rushed in aggressively. Behind this group of people, there were several disciples of the Wind Thunder Tower shouting, "Master, we don't know where they came from. We can't stop them." There were 4 people standing at the front of the group of people who broke in, and they were all in the Gang Spirit Realm. Behind them, there were 20 or 30 people, all of whom were spirit cultivators in the 4 realms of celestial being. These people were all gloomy. Obviously, they did not come with good intentions. The one-armed man among the 4 Gang Spirit Realm cultivators sneered, "That demonic beast was clearly being chased by us, but you, Hong Guangji, secretly took it away. You even held a demonic beast slaughtering assembly. How ridiculous." "That's right. When we were chasing the demonic beast, you said that you had never seen it. Now I want to hear your explanation," another one-eyed man said bitterly. Seeing these 2 people, everyone on the Wind Thunder platform suddenly burst into an uproar. The one-armed man is the leader of the Heavenly Destruction Alliance, Man Gone. He is an expert in the late stage of the Gang Spirit Realm. Yes, the one-eyed man beside him is the deputy leader of the Heavenly Destruction Alliance, Zhang Shen. There are also people from the Refining Heart Palace and the Drunk Dream Valley. What are they doing in the Wind Thunder Tower? Didn't you hear what they said? The demonic beast that the Wind Thunder Tower wants to behead in public is the demonic beast that caused a bloody storm in the East County not long ago. It is said that these sects lost a lot of disciples while chasing the demonic beast. The demonic beast is the shame of their lives. If they can kill the demonic beast, they can save some face. However, the demonic beast was hidden by the Wind Thunder Tower. Today, they are here to settle accounts with Hong Guangji. Hee. Now there is a good show to watch. This trip is not in vain. Seeing the arrival of Man Gong, Zhang Shen and others, Wang Tai became serious. He had thought that even if people from the East County came, there would not be so many masters. But now, there were 4 gang spirit realm cultivators. This was not easy to solve. Looking at these people who came to make trouble, Lung Shiqi also had the mentality of watching a good show. As for Hong Guangji, his face was the worst. He was being questioned in front of so many people. Where was his dignity? Hong Guangji also expected that people from the East County might come, so he forced a smile and said, "Are you also here to attend the demonic beast slaughtering assembly? Please take a seat." Man Gong immediately sneered. "What the hell is the demonic beast slaughtering assembly? You don't deserve it. Even if there is going to be a demonic beast slaughtering assembly, it should be held by us, not by a villain like you who secretly seeks profits." The smile on Hong Guangji's face had disappeared. What Man Gong said was completely merciless. He said in a low voice, "Are you sure you want to go against the Wind Thunder Tower? You have chased the demonic beast for so long without success. In the end, it was caught by the Wind Thunder Tower. I have done what you can't do. Naturally, I am qualified to hold the demonic beast slaughtering assembly." Bah! We have seriously injured the demonic beast. You just took advantage of the situation. Zhang Shen shouted angrily. "Today, you'd better hand over the demonic beast, otherwise." Speaking of this, the 4 gang spirit realm cultivators emitted horrible spiritual pressure at the same time. The air in the entire Wind Thunder platform suddenly seemed to be emptied in an instant, making it difficult for people to breathe. At this moment, Wang Tai stood out. Chapter 4:14. King Tai was a conservative person. In his opinion, as long as the North region was stable, everything would be fine. Therefore, he came here to be a peacemaker. At this moment, King Tai saw that the 2 sides were like fire and water and could fight at any time. If they really fought, no matter who won, the East region and North region spirit cultivator sects would be in chaos. This wasn't what the Discipline Division Grand Commissioner wanted to see. King Tai stepped and instantly arrived between the 2 sides. Zhang Shen and the other 3's spirit pressure didn't seem to exist on King Tai's body. He said with a smile, "Sect leader Hong, alliance leader Man, we can talk about anything. There's no need to use weapons and hurt the harmony." Man Tiangong and the others naturally recognized King Tai. At first, their attention was on Hong Guangji, so they didn't notice King Tai was here. Since King Tai was here, Man Tiangong retracted his spirit pressure and cupped his fists. "Lord Wang is also here. I'm sure Lord Wang knows the whole story. This isn't a big deal. As long as Hong Guangji hands over the demon beast, we'll leave." "That's right. This is already the biggest concession we can make," Zhang Shen added. King Tai didn't say anything. Instead, he looked at Hong Guangji and gave him a meaningful look. Hong Guangji immediately understood King Tai's meaning. King Tai wanted stability and Hong Guangji to hand over the demon beast. Hong Guangji definitely wasn't willing, but King Tai was the North region's Grand Commissioner. He didn't dare to provoke him. However, Hong Guangji also guessed that the Heavenly Cripple Union might come to find trouble with him. He wasn't unprepared. He transmitted his voice to King Tai. "Lord Wang, don't worry. I'll take care of this. I won't let the East region and North region become chaotic. That better be the case. Otherwise, I won't clean up your mess." King Tai heard that Hong Guangji was prepared, so he retreated to the side. Hong Guangji knew that if he didn't handle today's matter well, King Tai wouldn't help him and would even hit him when he was down. "Alliance leader Man, since you're all here, how about this? The Demon Slaughter Assembly will continue as usual, but Alliance leader Man will personally kill the demon beast. How about it?" As soon as these words came out, Man Tiangang began to ponder. Lang Shiqi felt that this method seemed to be a good method for both sides to take a step back, but in the end, it still depended on how determined the people of the heavenly stem were. Man Tiangon, Zhang Shan, and the others had a simple discussion and said, "This method is not suitable. I have a better idea." "Alliance Masterman, please," Hong Guangji said. "We spirit cultivator naturally respect strength. Today, I will set up a bet with this matter. Each of us will send out 3 people to fight, and the one who wins the most will be the winner. If sect leader Hong wins, we will leave without a second word. However, if we win, Humph, please bring out the demon beast, sect leader Hong." Hong Guangji's expression darkened. Including him, there were only 2 gang spirit realm experts in the Wind and Thunder Tower. The other one was still guarding the treasure pavilion of the sect. However, there were 4 masters of gang spirit realm on the other side. This was clearly an unequal gambling fight. How could he agree? But looking at the expressions of the people of the heavenly stem, it seemed that if he did not agree, they would really fight. At this time, Hong Guangji was in a dilemma. He really underestimated the spirit cultivator forces in the East County's obsession with the demon beast. At the end of the day, that demonic beast was only a rank 4 demonic beast. The reason why Hong Guangji held the demonic slaughtering assembly was firstly because this demonic beast had indeed caused a huge commotion. Secondly, many people had never seen a real demonic beast before, so they were willing to give face and participate in the demonic slaughtering assembly. But he did not expect that Nine Leave was about to swallow up all the resources of the Heavenly Destruction Alliance and several other forces. Not only that, in the process of chasing Nine Leave, they lost a large number of disciples. How could they let go of such hatred easily? They had to kill Ran Jioli in order to vent the hatred in their hearts. Only then would they be able to save some face. At this point, Hong Guangji had an idea. There were many masters of gang spirit realm present. As long as he could draw 1 or 2 of them to his side, he might be able to win the bet. So Hong Guangji looked at those people on the Jade platform. Most of them were in the gang spirit realm. But when they saw Hong Guangji looking at them, they all avoided eye contact, and some of them even closed their eyes to rest. They were all people in high positions, so they naturally knew that this was the grudge between the Wind and Thunder Tower and the forces in the East County. They did not want to get involved. Only one person did not avoid Hong Guangji. That was Lang Shiqi. Unfortunately, Hong Guangji subconsciously eliminated Lang Shiqi from the list. In his opinion, Lang Shiqi could sit in the position of the supervisor of the North County because of his ability and background, not strength. At this moment, he just needed a strong person. And the reason why Lang Shiqi kept looking at Hong Guangji was not that he really wanted to help him in the bet. Moreover, Lang Shiqi knew himself well. He could indeed threaten the masters of Gang Spirit Realm when he broke out with all his strength. But it was limited to the early stage of Gang Spirit Realm. Among the 4 masters of Gang Spirit Realm, the weakest one was at the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm. So Lang Shiqi did not want to go up and look for trouble. He stared at Hong Guangji because he was waiting for something. Calculating the time, Nine Leave should have started to take action. No matter whether she succeeded or not, Hong Guangji, the head of the Wind and Thunder Tower, would definitely receive the message from the first elder who guarded the heavenly luck stone of Wind and Thunder. At that time, Hong Guangji would definitely react, and Lang Shiqi would have to do something. At this point, the entire Wind and Thunder platform fell into a dead silence. The people of Gang Spirit were waiting for Hong Guangji's reply. The people on the Jade platform were either looking around or resting with their eyes closed, while the people on the Wind and Thunder platform were waiting for a good show. Hong Guangji's face had become livid. The reason why he invited those big shots was that he intended to stand up for him. Now, no one was willing to stand up for him. Just as Hong Guangji was thinking about what to do, suddenly, his eyes widened and his face changed greatly. Just now, he received a message from the first elder, Ji Dong, that someone broke into their treasure pavilion and intended to steal the heavenly luck stone of Wind and Thunder. That was the most precious treasure of the Wind and Thunder Tower, and also the best treasure for practicing the Wind and Thunder formula. It was the foundation of the Wind and Thunder Tower. He had to go there. Hong Guangji hurriedly cupped his hands and said, "Everyone, I'm sorry. Something urgent has happened in our sect. Please excuse me for a moment." Gang Spirit was the first to disagree. He said harshly, "What? Do you want to refuse?" Then don't blame us for being rude. At this time, Hong Guangji did not want to entangle with them about the evil beast, so he said directly, "After I deal with the matter, I'll give you the evil beast." Gang's spirit was stunned at first. Hong Guangji bowed his head? What happened in the Wind and Thunder Tower? Just when Hong Guangji was about to leave with his disciples, Lung Shiqi spoke. Chapter 4:15. Leng Shiqi walked to the edge of the jade platform and said loudly, "Sect Master Hong, there's something I don't know if I should say." Hong Guangji, who was about to leave with his people, paused. He didn't expect Leng Shiqi to speak at this crucial moment. However, Leng Shiqi was an important guest that he personally invited and was also the supervisor of the Dark Thunder Guards. He still had to give him some face. Hong Guangji suppressed the anxiety in his heart and said, "Lord Lu, please speak your mind." Sect Master Hong, the reason why we came to the Wind Thunder Tower is to see the true face of the demon beast and to witness the beheading of the demon beast in front of everyone to comfort the souls of the innocent people who died in the hands of the demon beast. However, if Sect Master Hong gave the demon beast away so easily, wouldn't this demon slaughter assembly become a joke? Did you ask us to come here just to watch a joke? When Leng Shiqi said this, the entire place was in an uproar. First, it was the lower-level spirit cultivators in the Wind Thunder platform. They were also the ones with the most numbers. They were the first to be unhappy. Lord Lu is right. We came all the way to the Wind Thunder Tower to watch the execution of the demon beast. In the blink of an eye, you gave the demon beast away. Then why are we here? That's right. We came because we gave the Wind Thunder Tower face. Yet you left us here. What kind of logic is this? The entire Wind Thunder platform instantly became noisy. Almost everyone was expressing their dissatisfaction towards the Wind Thunder Tower. Man Tiangang and the others didn't say anything because they were a little surprised and doubtful. They were clearly the main characters today. Why did no one pay attention to them all of a sudden? Hong Guangji didn't bother with them anymore and directly gave the demon beast to them. Man Tiangang should be very happy. But now, he felt a little strange. However, seeing Hong Guangji being condemned by everyone, he was still secretly happy. King Tai looked at Leng Shiqi and a trace of doubt flashed across his eyes. He wanted Leng Shiqi to speak for him. However, seeing that Hong Guangji had already retreated, although King Tai didn't know the reason, the Wind Thunder Tower and the Heavenly Cripple Union shouldn't be fighting today. King Tai's mission was also completed. However, Leng Shiqi's actions were equivalent to humiliating the Wind Thunder Tower. It was considered to be going against the Wind Thunder Tower. This made him feel surprised. The people on the Jade stage were even more surprised. Leng Shiqi's actions undoubtedly implicated the Wind Thunder Tower. Even if Leng Shiqi was the great supervisor, there was no need to offend a second-rate sect for no reason. Of course, the most surprised and angry. Now, he was rushing to the treasure pavilion. However, Leng Shiqi's words made Hong Guangji the target of public criticism. Now, facing public anger, he definitely couldn't just leave. However, Hong Guangji didn't know why Leng Shiqi did this. The Wind Thunder Tower and the Dark Thunder Guards had always minded their own business. Hong Guangji didn't target Leng Shiqi and even gave Leng Shiqi enough face. However, if he stayed here for a moment longer, the Wind Thunder Godly Luck Stone might be lost. He was extremely anxious. He could only secretly remember this grudge and said in a deep voice, "Fellow cultivators, this is indeed the fault of the Wind Thunder Tower. I apologize to everyone here. However, our sect does have an extremely urgent matter to deal with. Please forgive us." At this point, Hong Guangji hesitated slightly and said, "Disciples, listen up. Quickly head to the treasure pavilion." Treasure pavilion? When everyone heard these three words, they finally understood. Something had happened to the treasure pavilion of the Wind Thunder Tower. That was why Hong Guangji was so anxious and even gave up the demonic beasts. He didn't even care about the demonic slaughtering meat. In this way, many people could understand the reason behind his actions. However, they were also very curious. Who dared to have designs on the treasure pavilion of the Wind Thunder Tower? Leng Shiqi saw that Hong Guangji was about to leave and said, "I see. I misunderstood Sect Master Hong. I'm really sorry. Something has happened to your sect. I'm willing to help Sect Master Hong. I hope Sect Master Hong doesn't mind my low cultivation." Hong Guangji stopped in his tracks. He couldn't guess what Lang Shiqi was planning. However, at this time, he couldn't be bothered to guess what Lang Shiqi was thinking. He nodded and said, "Lord Lu, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough." With that, he led the Wind Thunder Tower disciples and rushed to the treasure pavilion. Lang Shiqi mixed in with the crowd and followed. As for the remaining people, some felt that they didn't see what they wanted and left. There were also people who were curious about what happened to the treasure pavilion of the Wind Thunder Tower. They stayed here and waited for the results. The Sky Stem people were a little embarrassed. Hong Guangji agreed to give them the demonic beasts. However, most of the Wind Thunder Tower disciples weren't here. There wasn't even anyone to greet them. They could only continue to stay here and wait for the matter to end before asking for the demonic beasts. Wang Tai's eyes flickered. In the end, he also chose to stay here. After all, the grudge between the Wind Thunder Tower and the Heavenly Cripple Union hadn't been resolved. He couldn't leave in peace. As for the people on the Jade platform, they all left. They didn't stand up for Hong Guangji earlier. Now they didn't have the face to sit here. On the other side, Lang Shiqi followed the Wind Thunder Tower disciples and quickly rushed to the treasure pavilion. He delayed Hong Guangji for a while just now. He didn't know if Nine Leaves succeeded. When everyone arrived at the treasure pavilion, they saw a corner of the treasure pavilion suddenly explode. Boom! With a loud sound, a scorpion-like demonic beast with purple light flowing around its body rushed into the distance at an extremely fast speed. Following closely behind him was an old man who had lost half of his sleeves. He was the Grand Elder of the Wind Thunder Tower, Ji Dong. Ji Dong rushed out of the treasure pavilion and saw Hong Guangji and his disciples. He quickly shouted, "Quick chase! That demonic beast stole the Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone." What? All the disciples of the Wind Thunder Tower, including Hong Guangji, were shocked. Even Hong Guangji, a master at the later stage of Gang's spirit realm, was a little panicked. The thing he was most worried about still happened. However, he didn't expect that the one who stole the Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone was actually the demonic beast he caught. Previously, Ji Dong only transmitted a message to him, saying that someone broke into the treasure pavilion to steal the Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone. However, he didn't have time to say who it was. Hong Guangji was shocked and angry. Shouldn't that demonic beast be trapped in the underground formation? When did it run out? However, he immediately calmed down and shouted, "All disciples of Celestial Realm, follow me to kill this demonic beast." Immediately, dozens of people left the crowd and chased after Nine Leaf. Nine Leaf's voice also appeared in Lang Shiqi's mind. "The formation in this treasure pavilion is extremely powerful. I'm injured. Come and help me later." Chapter 4:16. Nine Leaf had really succeeded. Lang Shiqi was secretly delighted. He saw Hong Guangji and Ji Dong leading dozens of disciples of the Celestial Realm to chase after Nine Leaf, but no one paid attention to him. He silently withdrew from the crowd and walked in the direction of the Wind Thunder platform. However, when he was halfway there, he activated the Supercilious Eye. Seeing that there was no one around, he sank into the ground and hid first. Then he began to try to contact Nine Leaf, but Nine Leaf did not respond at all. He must be trying his best to escape. Nine Leaf needed help, but Lang Shiqi did not have the ability to face 2 Spirit Gang Realm Masters and dozens of Celestial Realm Spirit Cultivators at the same time. Therefore, he could only use his wits. Then Lang Shiqi activated the Fate skill. In the system map, he immediately saw Nine Leaf, Hong Guangji and others. In terms of speed, Nine Leaf might be injured, so his speed was not as fast as Hong Guangji and Ji Dong. It would not take long for the two to catch up. Although Lang Shiqi knew that Nine Leaf had many secret skills, he could not help but be a little worried. If something really happened to Nine Leaf, that part of his soul would disappear forever. Lang Shiqi did not care whether Nine Leaf could sense his news or not. He immediately sent a message to Nine Leaf, and then the 3-colored light flashed around him and he disappeared. In the back mountain of the Wind Thunder Tower, a group of masters were chasing after Nine Leaf. Hong Guangji and Ji Dong were the fastest, and they were both shocked and angry. If Nine Leaf really escaped with the Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone today, then their Wind Thunder Tower would become a laughing stock in the North County, and even in the entire West Wilderness County. The demonic beasts that they had personally captured had stolen their sect's most precious treasure. How could this matter of shooting oneself in the foot not become a laughingstock? Therefore, the two of them were also doing their best to chase after him. The Wind Thunder Tower's cultivation method could trigger the power of wind and thunder. They were extremely fast and were about to catch up with Nine Leaf. However, at this moment, Nine Leaf raised his hand and threw out the Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone. With Nine Leaf's power, the Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone was like a meteor shooting through the sky. Hong Guangji and Ji Dong looked at each other with joy in their eyes. They knew that the demonic beast couldn't hold on any longer, which was why it came up with this plan. It wanted to give up on the Wind and Thunder Divine Luck Stone to separate the two of them in order to survive. Hong Guangji immediately said, "Junior brother Ji, go get the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. I must kill this demonic beast with my own hands. This demon's methods are strange and hard to guard against. Senior brother, you must be careful." After Ji Dong finished speaking, he separated from Hong Guangji and chased after the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. In the distance, the Wind Thunder God's Luck Stone was about to land. At this moment, a person in pitch-black armor and bathed in tri-colored spirit light suddenly appeared. He reached out and caught the Wind Thunder Godly Luck Stone. This person was naturally Lang Shiqi. When the Wind Thunder God Stone entered his hand, Lang Shiqi felt a strange power coming from his hand. This power seemed to contain several different attributes, including the wind attribute, the thunder attribute, and a mysterious power. However, now was not the time for Lang Shiqi to study the Wind Thunder God's Luck Stone. He immediately stored it in the system space. Who dares to touch the Wind Thunder Godly Luck Stone? Dang! It was also at this moment that Ji Dong's voice reverberated like thunder. Ji Dong's speed was indeed very fast. When he arrived, he happened to see Lang Shiqi put away the Wind Thunder God's Luck Stone. He was immediately furious. It turned out that the demonic beast had a helper. However, when Ji Dong discovered that Lang Shiqi was only in the spirit aperture realm, his killing intent soared. He waved his hands, and the wind and clouds suddenly surged between heaven and earth. Lightning flashed in the clouds. Then an invisible hurricane blew up, and this hurricane was full of countless wind-cutting spirit gang. Thunder flashed in the sky, and the Wind Thunder Spirit Gang led the thunder of heaven and earth to form a lightning python that struck down. This Ji Dong was actually a Spirit Gang realm spirit caster. Facing this terrifying attack, a blood mark suddenly appeared on Lang Shiqi's forehead, and his aura instantly soared to the late stage of the spirit aperture realm. He used the ghost steps of the nether spring and dodged back and forth between the wind blades and the lightning pythons like a spirit of the underworld. At the same time, he held a 5th-level spirit sword in his hand, and the blade was stained with layers of blood. Blood evil chi surged up, shattering the lightning and wind blades one after another. Seeing this, Ji Dong's heart could not help but be surprised. The cultivation of the person who suddenly appeared was not high. Under his attack, he seemed to be struggling to survive, but in fact, he was not injured at all. Even a spirit cultivator in the early stage of the spirit aperture realm might not be able to take this move unscathed, but he was not injured at all. Doubts appeared in Ji Dong's mind. Who was this person? To be able to have such a powerful combat strength in the spirit aperture realm? His background was definitely not simple. However, no matter who the other party was, he must die today. Ji Dong's hands quickly formed a seal, and a waning moon completely condensed from wind blades appeared. Immediately, the waning moon burst with lightning. At this moment, he had perfectly merged the power of wind and thunder together. The waning moon of wind and thunder tore the sky directly, and in an instant, it was in front of Lang Shiqi. Lang Shiqi's eyes narrowed, and he opened his supercilious eyes to look for the flaws. Then, he held a 5th-level spirit sword, and when the waning moon of wind and thunder was in front of him, the spirit sword was unsheathed. In an instant, a blood-colored sword light shone between heaven and earth, and a strong blood evil chi soared into the sky. Endless sword intent broke out from it, and it actually shattered the waning moon of wind and thunder. However, the 5th-level spirit sword in Lang Shiqi's hand was also broken. Even the 5th-level spirit sword could not withstand the power of the sword, so one could imagine how strong this sword was. At this moment, Ji Dong's pupils shrank, because there was an invisible blade breaking into his spiritual space. It was a sword light that shook his spiritual space in an instant. Ji Dong hurriedly mobilized all his spiritual power to resist and wear down the sword light. With his spiritual power in the middle stage of Spirit Gang realm, in the end, he consumed 60% of his spiritual power to block it. At this time, he still had a little lingering fear. If he was not a spirit caster, but an ordinary spirit cultivator, his spiritual power would have been damaged by this sword. However, when Ji Dong withdrew his mind, there was no trace of Lung Shiqi nearby. Ji Dong's old face was gloomy like the sea that was about to set off a tsunami, and a terrifying power would erupt at any time. At the same time, he was even more surprised by Lung Shiqi's strength. The waning moon of wind and thunder was his full strength, and it was also one of his famous skills. Even spirit cultivators of the same level had to be very careful when dealing with it. But now, it was blocked by a person in the spirit aperture realm with only one sword. Not only was it blocked, but it also attacked his spiritual space. This even made him start to doubt his life. Chapter 4:17. Of course, Lung Shiqi wasn't as relaxed as Ji Dong had imagined. The divine ephemeral epiphyllum he had just used had been supplemented with the newly learned art of resisting fiend. That saber strike, on top of the original foundation, contained his fiendish aura, and had taken away more than half of the blood essence in his body. Only then was he able to block Ji Dong's attack and take the opportunity to escape. Originally, Lung Shiqi planned to return to Hanzhou City directly. But now that his identity was different, he couldn't disappear for no reason. Furthermore, Guan Feihong was still in the Wind and Thunder Tower, so he had to return to the tower first and show his face in front of everyone. Furthermore, Lung Shiqi used the demonic beast blood rune armor to cover his face and didn't use the ink jade sword or demon arrival battle blade. He wasn't afraid of being recognized. As for Nine Leave, he wasn't worried. Only Hong Guangji was chasing after Nine Leave. With Nine Leave's ability, he would definitely be able to escape. Ji Dong definitely didn't expect that the person who took away the Wind and Thunder Divine Luckstone would return to the Wind and Thunder Tower. But at this moment, Ji Dong's face was sinister and his eyes were filled with killing intent. However, he was helpless and could only meet up with Hong Guangji. When Ji Dong found his disciples, Hong Guangji still hadn't returned. After waiting for a long time, he finally returned. But when Ji Dong saw that Hong Guangji's face was also very ugly, Ji Dong's heart sank. Hong Guangji said solemnly, "Sigh, that demonic beast was too cunning and proficient in illusion techniques. It escaped. But it's good that we can get the Wind and Thunder Divine Luck Stone back." Ji Dong opened his mouth but couldn't say anything. He was too ashamed to say that the Wind and Thunder Divine Luck Stone was taken away by a spirit aperture realm cultivator. Seeing him like this, Hong Guangji had a bad premonition. He hurriedly asked, "Junior brother Ji, where's the Wind and Thunder Divine Luck Stone?" Ji Dong's face turned red and said, "That demonic beast had an accomplice. The Wind and Thunder Divine Luck Stone was stolen." "What?" Hong Guangji roared in shock. "Who is it? Who is it?" "I don't know either. That person's entire body was covered, but he cultivates demonic arts. He should be from some demonic sect." Ji Dong shook his head. Hong Guangji said in surprise, "Demonic cultivator? But there are only a few evil cultivation sects in the whole Western Wilderness Prefecture, and I have never heard of a gang spirit realm evil cultivator. Where did this one come from?" Ji Dong clenched his teeth and said, "Senior brother, that person is at the spirit aperture realm." Hong Guangji's eyes immediately turned cold when he heard that. He stared at Ji Dong with suspicion. Who would believe that Ji Dong, a spiritual caster in the middle stage of gang spirit realm, could not defeat a person in spiritual aperture realm? Noticing that Hong Guangji's gaze was not right, Ji Dong laughed bitterly and said, "Senior brother sect leader, I've already done my best." However, although that demonic cultivator's cultivation was only at the spirit aperture realm, his strength was extremely strong. He also knows an abnormally powerful saber art. Not only did he block my wind, thunder, falling stars and moon, he even secretly attacked my spiritual space. If it wasn't for my strong mental strength, I'm afraid my spiritual body would have been injured. Hong Guangji's first thought was that it was impossible. However, when he saw the sincerity in Ji Dong's eyes, he began to waver. Hong Guangji and Ji Dong had been brothers for decades, and they were also the ones who supported the current Wind Thunder Tower. And Ji Dong had never been greedy for power and wealth, so he took the initiative to guard the treasure pavilion. It was impossible for such a person to collude with outsiders to steal the Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone. Then again, if Ji Dong really wanted to monopolize the Wind Thunder Heavenly Luckstone, he didn't have to go through so much trouble. Thinking of this, Hong Guangji's gaze was no longer so aggressive, but filled with endless distress. Up to now, they not only lost the most precious treasure of the sect, but also let the evil beast run away. This time, it was simply a double loss. Moreover, Hong Guangji had just promised to give the evil beast to the Heavenly Destruction Alliance, but the evil beast had already run away. How could he explain it to the Heavenly Destruction Alliance? Hong Guangji's demon extermination assembly held today not only provoked the wrath of heaven and people, but also offended many people. There was a huge mess waiting for him to clean up, and he couldn't help but have a splitting headache. However, Hong Guangji had been the sect master for decades, and he quickly thought of some countermeasures. He said to Ji Dong, "Junior brother Ji, your top priority is to track down the whereabouts of the Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone. The most precious treasure of the sect must not be lost." Ji Dong nodded solemnly. "Sect master senior brother, don't worry. I set up a restriction on the Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone. As long as I go back and set up the formation, I will be able to sense its location." "That's great. Let's return to the sect first and send the Heavenly Destruction Alliance people back." Hong Guangji then led his disciples back to the Wind Thunder platform. There weren't many people left in the Wind Thunder platform. Other than some of the lower-level disciples of the Wind Thunder Tower and the Sky Stem, there were only a few people left. Originally, there were still some people who were prepared to watch the show, but Hong Guangji and the rest had been gone for so long, and they didn't know when they would return. Everyone couldn't just wait here and do nothing, so they could only leave one by one. However, from then on, the Wind Thunder Tower's reputation plummeted. The only important person left on the Jade platform was King Tai. At this moment, he was chatting with Man Gone. His mission hadn't been completed, so he couldn't leave yet. Not long later, Leng Shiqi returned first. Seeing Leng Shiqi, King Tai, Man Tiangong, and the others immediately looked at him with inquiring eyes. Among everyone, only Leng Shiqi had followed Hong Guangji to the treasure pavilion. Therefore, they also wanted to know what had happened to the treasure pavilion of the Wind and Thunder Tower. The Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone was missing. This was the top secret of the Wind Thunder Tower. Leng Shiqi obviously couldn't casually say it. Leng Shiqi walked to King Tai's side and shook his head lightly. "I don't know the details. When I arrived, Hong Guangji and Great Elder Ji Dong had already led the experts of the sect to chase after them. However, for them to value it so much, the Wind Thunder Tower must have lost something important." King Tai raised his eyebrows and said, "Who could break into the treasure pavilion and steal something right under Ji Dong's nose?" Leng Shiqi looked at Man Gone meaningfully and replied, "This matter seems to have something to do with Alliance Chief Man Tiangong turned his head in confusion. How did he get involved in this matter again? Because the one who stole the treasure wasn't a human, but a scorpion-like demonic beast." "What did you say?" Heavenly Stem immediately exploded. "That demonic beast escaped and even stole the treasures of the Wind and Thunder Tower. The people of the Wind Thunder Tower are indeed a bunch of trash." Just as he said this, a large group of disciples of the Wind Thunder Tower walked over under Hong Guangji's lead. Many of them heard his words, and all of them glared at him. Chapter 4:18. Hong Guangji and a large group of Wind Thunder Tower disciples had just rushed back to the Wind Thunder platform when they heard Man Tiangong's words. Everyone was furious. However, Man Tiangong did not care at all. He directly said to Hong Guangji, "Hong Guangji, since you have returned, I believe the matter at the treasure pavilion is over. Then, shouldn't you give the demon beast to us now?" "Alliance leader man, why do you ask when you already know the answer?" Hong Guangji's eyes flashed. "Humph." Man Tiangong snorted coldly. Hong Guangji, you wanted to kill this demon beast in front of everyone to make the Wind Thunder Tower famous. In the end, not only did the demon beast escape, but it also stole your important treasure. Ha ha ha, what a joke. If that demon beast had been chased to death by us back then, how would you have ended up like this?" Hong Guangji suppressed the anger in his heart and said, "Alliance leader man, did you come here just to mock me? The demon beast escaped. I admit that I was careless. Next, we should work together to hunt down this demon." Man Tiangong sneered. "Work together?" When sect leader Hong secretly captured the demon beast, Why didn't you think of working together with us? We will catch the demon beast ourselves. However, after we catch it, the things on its body will naturally belong to us. Let's go. Then, Man Tiangon and dozens of experts from the East County strode out of the Wind Thunder platform. From the beginning to the end, they did not give Hong Guangji any face at all. Hong Guangji secretly clenched his fists, but he could not flare up, nor could he get angry. Because he was the one who was in the wrong, and he was the one who went back on his words. Man Tiangon and the others did not pursue the matter and chose to leave. It was already a good ending. If Hong Guangji dared to say a few more words of anger, Man Tiangon would really dare to fight with him. Now, the most important thing for Hong Guangji was to find the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. Seeing Man Tiangon and the others leave, King Tai secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Now that the two sides would not have a conflict for the time being, although he did not play a big role in this trip, he was still very satisfied with the result. King Tai said to Lang Shiqi beside him, "Lord Lu, it's time for me to leave. Why don't you come with me?" "Very well," Lang Shiqi replied. Afterwards, the two of them bid farewell to Hong Guangji. These two were high-ranking members of the Dark Thunder Guard and the Discipline Commission. Out of respect, Hong Guangji still personally saw them off. When they walked out of the gate of Wind and Thunder Watchtower, King Tai said, "Your Excellency Lu has reached the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm at such a young age and is also the great supervisor. It seems that the Dark Thunder Guard Elite Union of our Western Wilderness Prefecture will belong to you soon." Elite Society. This was the first time Lang Shiqi had heard these words, and he couldn't help but feel a little puzzled. However, he immediately thought of the quota that Eunuch Gao had given him a few months ago. If he guessed correctly, it should be the quota for the Elite Association. Unfortunately, Lang Shiqi still doesn't know what this elite does. There happened to be someone here who knew this, so he asked, "Your Excellency King, I'm new here and don't know what this Elite Association is. Please enlighten me, Your Excellency." King Tai was a little surprised at first, but then he nodded with understanding and said, "Your Excellency Lu hasn't been in the Dark Thunder Guard for long, so it's normal that you don't know about the Elite Association. In fact, this Elite Association is a feast for our Thunderfire dynasty. The two most well-known forces of the Thunderfire dynasty are the Dark Thunder Guard and the Discipline Commission. It can be said that these two forces are the right and left arms of the Thunderfire dynasty. In order to maintain the strength and vitality of these two forces, every 10 years, the dynasty will gather the young talents of all provinces and counties together and call it the Elite Association. However, those who can attend the Elite Association are definitely the elites of all provinces and counties. Because there is only one quota for each of the Dark Thunder Guard and the Discipline Commission. That is to say, there are only 2 people in our Western Wilderness Prefecture who are qualified to attend the Elite Association. It's a pity that I failed to get this quota when I was young, so I really yearn for the Elite Association. I think Your Excellency Lu is very promising." Hearing these words, Lang Shiqi thought to himself that so it was like this. At the same time, he also understood why Yu Ruifeng revealed such a shocked expression when Eunuch Gao gave him the quota. According to King Tai, there was only one quota for the Dark Thunder Guard, and Eunuch Gao directly gave it to Lang Shiqi. How could Yu Ruifeng not be shocked? Of the 36 provinces of the Thunderfire dynasty, apart from the Imperial City, 35 of them had branches of the Dark Thunder Guard and the Discipline Commission. This also meant that there were a total of 70 people participating in the Elite Association. These 70 people were the future of the Dark Thunder Guard and the Discipline Commission. And Lang Shiqi was one of them. He said modestly, "From what Your Excellency Wang said, this Elite Association is indeed worthy of its reputation. However, there are many crouching tigers and hidden dragons in the Dark Thunder Guard. Even if I wanted to, I might not have the ability. Your Excellency Lu is too modest. In the past, most of the people who went to the Elite Association were at the Spirit Aperture Realm, but there has never been a Spirit Aperture Realm supervisor or commissioner. Your Excellency Lu is the first, so the quota for the Dark Thunder Guard will be yours if nothing unexpected happens." "Haha, then I will borrow Brother Wang's auspicious words," Lang Shiqi said with a smile. The two chatted as they walked. Although they were talking about some superficial things, Lang Shiqi still received some benefits. Not long after, the two parted ways. After Lang Shiqi and Guan Feihong returned to Hangzhou City, he directly went into his room and prepared to study the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. However, just as he took out the treasure, There was a sound beside him, which scared him so much that he quickly put away the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. He turned around and saw that Nine Leaf had already appeared in the room at some point. It was also at this moment that Ji Dong was seated within an extremely complicated formation in the treasure hall of the Wind Thunder Tower. There was a disc floating in front of him, and there was something like a pointer on the disc. This formation was the one that could sense the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. Ji Dong's hands formed seals and sent out rays of spirit light. The disc in front of him also began to spin. Ji Dong's eyes stared at the pointer, but after a long time, the pointer did not seem to have any intention of stopping. Ji Dong frowned when he saw this scene, and his eyes revealed traces of surprise. This situation meant that even this formation could not sense the location of the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. Could it be that the distance is too far? That shouldn't be. As long as the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone does not leave the Western Desolate Province, it should be able to sense it. Just as Ji Dong was puzzled, he suddenly realized that the pointer had stopped. However, he only took a glance and the pointer actually began to spin again. Although he did not know what was going on, the pointer did sense the direction of the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. Chapter 419. In the Dark Thunder residence of Hangzhou City, Nine Leaf said anxiously as soon as he appeared, "Don't take out the Wind Thunder Godly Luck Stone rashly." Hearing this, Leng Shiqi's heart tightened. "Senior Nine Leaf, is there something fishy about the Wind Thunder Godly Luck Stone?" "Yes, there's a sensing restriction on it. Even if it's thousands of miles away, it can be sensed by the Wind Thunder Tower," Nine Leaf explained. "Fortunately, you only took it out for a moment, so it should be fine." Leng Shiqi's eyes flashed and he asked seriously, "Will the Wind Thunder Godly Luck Stone be sensed if it's placed in the mustard seed bag?" Don't underestimate the Wind Thunder Tower's ability. This stone is their most precious treasure, and they spent a lot of effort on it. So even if it's placed in the mustard seed bag, it will still be sensed. But, don't you have an even more hidden space treasure? Speaking of this, Nine Leaf's tone became a little meaningful, but Leng Shiqi pretended not to hear it. He had been with Nine Leaf for so long, so it was not strange that Nine Leaf could guess that he had another kind of storage space. Leng Shiqi said, "Then what should we do next? Can we not take out the Wind Thunder Godly Luck Stone forever?" "Of course there is a way. I can use the power of the soul to isolate the Wind Thunder Godly Luck Stone, but I'm seriously injured now, so I have to recuperate for a while." Nine Leaf had gone through a series of battles and was now riddled with scars, so he really needed to recuperate first. Leng Shiqi nodded, "That's right. I'll have someone prepare the resources for healing later." "Okay, I'll leave it to you." Nine Leaf showed a trace of satisfaction. "As a reward, after removing the restriction on the Wind Thunder Godly Luck Stone, I can give it to you to refine for 3 days. 3 days. Leng Shiqi was a little surprised when he heard this. The Wind Thunder Godly Luck Stone contained a large amount of extremely pure wind and thunder power. If he could refine a part of it, it would be very convenient when he broke through to the astral spirit realm and condensed astral spirit. What's more, it was said that this treasure also contained a trace of luck power. Although it was only a legend, who knew if it could be refined? Luck was an illusory concept, but Leng Shiqi knew that luck was actually very important. Not only could it avoid misfortune, but it could also be more compatible with heaven and earth. He had only paid some resources for Nine Leaf to recuperate, and in exchange, he could refine Nine Leaf for 3 days. It could be said to be a very good deal. Next, Nine Leaf first used a secret technique to hide his figure, while Leng Shiqi personally went to the treasury. Ever since he was promoted to the Great Supervisor, he had never been here before. When he walked in, he was stunned because the treasury was almost filled to the brim with dazzling resources. Leng Shiqi himself did not know that he was so rich. However, Leng Shiqi thought for a moment and understood. Hangzhou City's Dark Thunder Manor had plenty of resources. Even though Duan Chun had taken a portion of them with him when he left, there was still plenty left. In addition to the goods transported from Misty Chi City and Deer Marshall City's Dark Thunder Manor, it was reasonable for them to have such a scale. Although there were a lot of resources, Leng Shiqi could not casually take them. Right now, he could be considered to have a large family business. Not to mention other things, just the Dark Thunder Manor in Hangzhou City alone had a few hundred people that needed him to feed them. The resources in front of him were the capital to feed these people. Next, Lang Shiqi began to choose the resources for 9 leave to recuperate, but at this time, he suddenly remembered something. That was the system map. After he obtained a portion of the system's authority, he only needed to spend 10,000 system coins to fully open the system map. Before this, Lang Shiqi had specially left 5,000 system coins to save up for opening the system map. However, after he came out of seclusion, he had not been idle. Especially in the past few days, because his subordinates were not completely familiar with the Dark Thunder Envoy's affairs, there were many things that he had to personally decide, so he was very busy. Now that he had entered the treasury, he remembered this matter. Thus, after Lang Shiqi took some resources for recuperation, he also gathered a large number of resources that were not used often and sold them all to the system for 5,000 system coins. Seeing that the resources in the treasury had decreased by less than half in the blink of an eye, Lang Shiqi did not know whether to laugh or cry. He was stuffing his own pockets so much that his pockets were about to burst. However, he was not too worried. In another half a month, the offerings from Misty Chi City, Deer Marshall City, and 10 other cities would be transported again. At that time, the deficit would naturally be made up for. Lang Shiqi also planned to wait for a period of time until everything stabilized before opening a trade route in Hangzhou City. At that time, there would definitely be more resources coming in. After Lang Shiqi brought a large number of resources to 9 leave, she directly began to recuperate in her room without any fear of Lang Shiqi. Lang Shiqi rubbed his nose. Although 9 leave was still in the body of a demonic beast, she was a genuine demoness. Furthermore, she was a demoness that could bring disaster to a country. In the past, when 9 leave's soul lived in his spiritual fantasy world, Lang Shiqi did not feel much, but now that they were squeezed in this room, he felt a little awkward. The most important thing was that he had too many secrets. With 9 leave by his side, he would have a lot of inconveniences. Lang Shiqi looked at 9 leave and saw that she had already entered a meditative state, so he withdrew his thoughts and silently opened the system. He directly opened the system map and clicked on the words, Open Map. Opening the system map requires 10,000 system coins. Do you want to open it? Lang Shiqi secretly took a deep breath and chose, Yes. Immediately after, the entire system map trembled, and then the map began to shrink, shrink, and shrink again. The system map was infinitely zoomed, and Lang Shiqi's pupils gradually contracted. The surprise and shock in his eyes grew stronger and stronger, and he even began to doubt his own eyes. When the system map calmed down, Lang Shiqi was actually stunned for a long time. He was now in the Thunderfire dynasty. He had been to the easternmost Donglin county of the dynasty, and also the demonic Miasma mountain range to the north. Now, he was sitting in the westernmost Shihuang county. It could be said that Lang Shiqi already spanned the east and west sides of the Thunderfire dynasty, so he could roughly estimate the size of the Thunderfire dynasty from the system map. Originally, he thought that the Thunderfire dynasty was already very big, but at this moment, when the system map was opened, the entire Thunderfire dynasty was just a small white on the map. A great country in this world was not even 1,000th of it. Even the falling star continent was nothing. In the current map, it seemed more appropriate to call this continent an island. There was only one thought in Lang Shiqi's mind, just how big is this world? Chapter 420. Lang Shiqi was in a daze in the room for a long time. After a long time, Lang Shiqi let out a long breath. He looked up. Although he could only see the roof, his eyes pierced through the clouds as if he could see through the 9 heavens. Lang Shiqi's eyes were full of determination. This time, the system map was fully opened. Although it did not increase his strength, it opened the door to a new world for him. It made him realize how vast and boundless this world was, and how splendid it was. It also made Lang Shiqi's vision and situation change dramatically. Blood Clothing Pavilion, Liuha Spiritual Region, Thunderfire Dynasty. These were called top and extraordinary forces. They could indeed dominate a region, but in this world, they were nothing. Originally, Lang Shiqi's requirement for himself was to become a powerhouse that could dominate a region. However, at this moment he had a higher goal. He wanted to stand among the powerhouses of this world. He wanted to climb to the peak of this world. Now, Lang Shiqi's pursuit of power was even more fervent, and he did not dare to slack off. He also knew that if he wanted to reach the goal in his heart, He had to slowly walk up one step at a time. Immediately, he set up the yin-yang spirit gathering formation and immersed himself in cultivation. In the next few days, Leng Shiqi began to gradually hand over the matters to Guan Feihong, Qiu Cheng, and the others. He used all the time he saved to cultivate. During this period, he was also constantly deducing spiritual skills and improving his strength at all times. It was not until half a month later that Nine Leaves' injuries finally improved. Of course, his injuries had not fully recovered. After all, he had been chased by the forces of the East County, Hongguangji, and Jidong. His external injuries had basically healed, but his internal injuries still needed to be slowly healed. However, Nine Leaf could already use a secret technique to isolate the restriction on the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. Nine Leaf said solemnly, "I will first set up an aura isolating formation around the room, just in case. If you have any methods, you can use them. After setting it up, when I'm about to complete the technique, you can take out the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone." Leng Shiqi nodded to indicate that he understood. Nine Leaves' claws flicked repeatedly, and streams of purple light shot out like a fairy scattering flowers, weaving into a magnificent purple net in the room. Leng Shiqi, on the other hand, was much simpler. Although he did not know any formations or restrictions, he had goo worms. He consecutively released dozens of goo worms to crawl to the four corners of the room. Those goo worms opened their mouths and spat out a layer of faint gray mist, enveloping the entire room from the inside. Nine Leaf glanced sideways at Leng Shiqi and said, "I knew there was a strange aura in your body. It turns out that it's these little bugs. These are goo worms. I obtained some when I was in Zhulu country. They are not very strong in direct combat, but they have some wonderful uses." Leng Shiqi explained. "Yes, your battle prowess is superb, but you have almost no other support abilities. With the help of these goo worms, it is indeed not bad. All right, let's begin." At this point, Nine Leaves' expression became even more solemn. Shortly after, Nine Leaves' soul body left her body, and her hands flew, sending out a series of mysterious seals. After a short while, Nine Leaves' soul body was a little weak, and she finally said, "Quick!" Leng Shiqi's heart moved, and the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone appeared in his hand. Once this treasure appeared, it immediately floated into the air. At the same time, Nine Leaf pushed her hands, and those mysterious seals poured into the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. In an instant, the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone burst out with a bright purple light. It was the power of wind and thunder. But these wind and thunder powers were instantly suppressed by Nine Leaves' seals. After the two were in a stalemate for a dozen breaths of time, the wind and thunder powers were completely defeated. At this time, the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone had no special characteristics. At first glance, it looked no different from an ordinary stone. Leng Shiqi and Nine Leaf looked at each other and thought at the same time, "It's done. According to what we said before, I'll let you refine the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone for 3 days. After 3 days, I'll swallow it directly." With that, Nine Leaves' soul returned to her body, and she closed her eyes to rest. Leng Shiqi picked up the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone and was about to carefully examine it when Nine Leaves' eyes suddenly opened. She said eerily, "Don't you dare play any tricks. I don't want something like the Heavenly Fae Soul Crystal to happen a second time." Leng Shiqi couldn't help but smile bitterly. "Senior, don't worry. I'll return it in 3 days. Besides, you're right beside me. Are you afraid I'll play any tricks?" "Humph." This time, Nine Leaf really closed her eyes to rest. After all, she had some internal injuries that needed to be healed. Leng Shiqi first held the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone and sized it up. He hadn't been idle these days. He ordered people to find all the information about the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone in Dark Thunder Manor and Blood Cloak Pavilion. He knew that the reason why the Wind Thunder Tower regarded it as the most precious treasure was that it contained a trace of congenital wind power and congenital thunder power. It was said that this treasure was born at the beginning of the world. It was originally an ordinary stone, but at the moment when the world was formed, it accidentally absorbed a trace of congenital power. After countless years, the congenital power contained in it was so thin that it almost didn't exist. But even so, it was enough to support a second-rate force like the Wind Thunder Tower. Once someone in the Wind Thunder Tower broke through to Gang's spirit realm, They could use this treasure to condense congenital wind and congenital thunder spiritual gang qi. With the help of the wind and thunder technique, they could be the best in the same level. Now the wind-thunder divine luck stone was in Lang Shiqi's hands. Unfortunately, he didn't cultivate the power of wind-thunder, so he could only absorb the power of wind and thunder very roughly. But even so, it could lay a solid foundation for him to break through to Gang Spirit realm and condense Gang Spirit in the future. So Lang Shiqi didn't think much and directly began to absorb the power of wind and thunder. Just as Lang Shiqi began to refine the wind-thunder divine luck stone, Ji Dong, who was in the treasure room of the wind-thunder tower, was staring at the round plate in front of him with a pale face and sweating forehead. There were several spirit cultivators in the spirit aperture realm sitting around Ji Dong. Each of them was trying their best to transfer spiritual power to Ji Dong, because Ji Dong had been maintaining this formation for half a month. Even though he had the cultivation of the middle stage of Gang Spirit realm, he couldn't maintain a formation for a long time. But in order to sense the position of the wind-thunder divine luck stone at all times, he couldn't stop. So he had to let his disciples take turns to transfer spiritual power to him. And at this time, the needle in the round plate suddenly stopped and pointed in a certain direction. Ji Dong's exhausted eyes finally showed some joy, but then, the whole round plate suddenly collapsed and burst. Puff! Ji Dong spat out a mouthful of blood and then fainted. His face was full of disbelief. Chapter 421. 3 days passed quickly. During these 3 days, Lang Shiqi kept refining the wind and thunder heavenly luck stone. He absorbed a lot of wind and thunder power from it and stored it in his body. The wind and thunder power could be used to defend against enemies, and it could also help him condense spiritual highland in the future. However, these powers were like water without roots. Every bit he used was a bit less, so he couldn't use them casually. In addition, Lang Shiqi felt it was a pity that he didn't feel the mysterious power of luck from the wind and thunder heavenly luck stone. Perhaps the wind and thunder heavenly luck stone didn't have such power at all. Even if it did, it would have been studied by the people of the wind and thunder tower. When the 3 days were up, Nine Leaf woke up on time. She didn't say anything and directly sucked the wind thunder god's luck stone into her mouth. Then she burped and closed her eyes again. Lang Shiqi didn't care. He stretched his body and walked out of the door. Then he walked towards the meeting hall. In these 3 days, he ordered that no one should disturb him, so he was going to see if there was anything important to deal with. However, as soon as he walked out of his courtyard, he saw Guan Feihong walking towards him with a little anxiousness. "Old Guan, what's the matter?" Lang Shiqi asked with a slight frown. Hong Guangji cupped his hands and said, "My lord, yesterday Lord Yu sent a message asking you to go to the western wilderness city to see him. He said there's something important." Lang Shiqi immediately thought of the elite society that King Tai mentioned. He guessed that Yu Ruifeng wanted him to go to the elite society. Therefore, he was afraid that he would not be able to return in a short period of time. He still had to make some arrangements. It had been more than 20 days since he became the great supervisor. Whether it was the Dark Lightning Envoy or the Blood Clothing Pavilion assassins, they were all familiar with the various tasks of the Dark Lightning Guards. The other supervisors were all very honest, so it was easy to make arrangements in this regard. Lang Shiqi was most concerned about Nine Leaf now. Back in Donglin County, after Lang Shiqi entered the Mirage Spirit Mystic Realm, Nine Leaf had provoked a second-rate force, Extreme Fire Manor, and was hunted down. Fortunately, when the secret realm collapsed, most of the experts who were chasing after her had turned back. Not long ago, Nine Leaf had wreaked havoc in the East County and was pursued by a large number of East County experts. In the end, she pretended to be captured and hid in the Wind Thunder Tower. However, she was still dishonest and stole the Wind Thunder Tower's most valuable treasure. At this moment, Lang Shiqi was thinking about what kind of trouble Nine Leaf would stir up when he returned from the elite meeting. However, it wasn't convenient for him to bring Jiao out of the elite club, not to mention that he had too many secrets. The demonic aura on Nine Leaf's body definitely couldn't be hidden from the many experts. If there was another demonic slaughtering assembly, it would be a good show. Therefore, Lang Shiqi had to first consult Nine Leaf's opinion. Later, Lang Shiqi summoned several Dark Thunder emissaries and told them everything. Then he returned to the room and woke Nine Leaf up. "Senior Nine Leaf, I may leave for a while. What's your plan?" Nine Leaf opened his eyes and rolled them like a human, saying, "I'll go with you." Ha! Lang Shiqi obviously didn't expect 9 Leave to make a decision so quickly, but he was also worried. Senior, I'm going to attend a gathering this time. I'm afraid I'll meet many experts above the gang spirit realm. It doesn't matter. 9 Leave shook his head and said, I've swallowed a lot of precious resources recently, especially the Wind Thunder Divine Stone, which contains a lot of power. I'm on the verge of advancement. As long as I completely refine the Wind Thunder Divine Stone, I can almost advance. At that time, my soul will fall into a deep sleep. As long as you keep my body well, no one will notice it. Lang Shiqi was shocked at first. 9 Leave was going to advance again? He clearly remembered that the last time 9 Leave advanced to a rank 4 demonic beast was a few months ago. In just a few months, 9 Leave was going to advance again. It could be imagined that she must have swallowed countless precious resources during this time. Even Lang Shiqi couldn't help feeling sympathy for those forces in the East County. Lang Shiqi was surprised but also relieved. 9 Leave would enter a deep sleep state when she advanced to a rank 5 demonic beast. Even if he took her with him, he didn't have to worry about her spying on his secrets, nor did he have to worry about her being noticed by others. For Lang Shiqi, this was the perfect situation. Before leaving, Lang Shiqi went to the treasury again. In the past 2 days, resources from all over the country had been gathered, and the treasury was full again. Of course, Lang Shiqi came to fill his pockets again. Since he was going to attend this elite gathering, it was inevitable that he would meet all kinds of people. It was much more convenient to go back and forth with more spirit stones and resources. In addition, he also needed to save some system coins in case he needed them. In the end, Lang Shiqi left Hanzhou City with 30,000 spirit stones and a large amount of commonly used resources, as well as 3,000 system coins. Hanzhou City was only 3 to 4 days away from Western Desolated City. Because Yu Ruifeng had sent him a message yesterday, Lang Shiqi directly used the Fate skill to arrive at Western Desolated City in 2 days. After the system was fully opened, the Fate skill no longer had any restrictions, and he could use it anytime and anywhere. After Lang Shiqi saw Yu Ruifeng, he found that his condition was much better, and his cultivation had also returned to the unity of heaven and man realm. However, Yu Ruifeng also found that Lang Shiqi had changed a lot. Lang Shiqi's cultivation didn't increase at all, but it gave Yu Ruifeng the feeling that it was like a bottomless well. Under the calmness and steadiness, it contained a terrifying power. What made Yu Ruifeng even more surprised was that Lang Shiqi's every movement had a trace of an expert's demeanor. The so-called demeanor of an expert wasn't a domineering aura, but the opposite. It was a change in the structure, a sublimation of one's state of mind. A true expert wouldn't care about petty profits, and wouldn't be limited by their horizons. Because what they pursued was even greater power. But Yu Ruifeng felt a trace of this from Lang Shiqi. Yu Ruifeng smiled. Eunuch Gao's eyes are indeed sharp. He directly gave you a spot in the elite association. Truly a wise eye. Hearing the words elite association, Lang Shiqi knew that it was indeed so. After a few humble words he asked, Martial Uncle, I've only heard of this elite association, but I don't know what it's for. Martial Uncle, please enlighten me. The Elite Association. Yu Ruifeng's eyes flashed with a trace of reminiscence. It's a place that can let you reach the heavens in a single step. Back then, I had the qualifications to sit on the patrol envoy position because I joined the Elite Association. Chapter 422. Lang Shiqi was shocked by Yu Ruifeng's words. It seemed that the elite meeting was a great opportunity. Since Eunuch Gao wants you to join the elite meeting, it seems that he intends to train you. You might even become the next inspector of the Western Desolate Province. Yu Ruifeng said. Lang Shiqi's heart tightened. He hurriedly said, Martial Uncle, I don't mean that. Nephew, you don't have to be like this. Yu Ruifeng waved his hand and said, Before I went to Zhulu, I also pursued power. However, the experience in Zhulu made me realize that power is the most important thing. In the past, I wasted too much time fighting for power, but I never thought about one thing. No matter how many contributions I made, it was impossible for me to be promoted to the position of one of the 4 great chiefs. Because I have Eunuch Gao above me. As long as he's alive, I have no chance at all. Even if he dies, he will only pass the position of Grand Chief to his trusted aide. So now I understand that the inspector position is my limit. Since that's the case, I might as well pursue the pinnacle of power. Although I'm still far from the heaven origin stage, it doesn't mean that I don't have a chance. If I'm lucky enough to break through to the heaven origin stage, I won't care about the position of 4 great chiefs. In the end, power is the most important thing. Lang Shiqi was deeply moved by Yu Ruifeng's words. This was what Lang Shiqi had always pursued. Even though he also fought for power and profit, he would never be blinded by power and influence. Just as Yu Ruifeng said, if he was at the heaven origin stage, eunuch Gao would have to bow to him. However, how could it be so easy to break through to the heaven origin stage? Sang Hatong didn't hesitate to sacrifice his entire sect's disciples and a large number of imperial guards in order to break through to the heaven origin stage. Unfortunately, he still failed. Thinking back to Meng Tianzong, the powerhouse from 10,000 years ago, he also used such cruel means to obtain more power. Therefore, one couldn't blindly seek power by unscrupulous means. At this moment, Yu Ruifeng finally talked about the elite gathering. The elite gathering gathers the geniuses from all over the Thunderblaze dynasty. There will be a round of tests at the beginning. This test will eliminate most of them, and those who pass the test will be qualified to enter the dragon vein to cultivate for a period of time. Speaking of this, Yu Ruifeng's eyes flashed with eagerness, and Lang Shiqi was also surprised. The dragon vein was the foundation of the Thunderflame dynasty. It was said that it was filled with an unimaginably miraculous power. Not only could it greatly increase one's cultivation, it could even allow one to be reborn and rebuild one's foundation, thereby improving one's aptitude. Of course, the most important thing was that the dragon vein was where the fortune of the Thunderflame dynasty gathered. It was usually guarded by many heavenly origin realm experts from the Imperial Hall of Worship. Not to mention ordinary people. Even the relatives of the royal family would find it difficult to enter. If he could cultivate in the dragon vein for a period of time, the benefits would be unimaginable. I broke through to the gang spirit realm in the dragon vein. After returning to the Western Wilderness Prefecture, I directly served as the great supervisor. After that, he had a meteoric rise and smoothly ascended to the position of patrol envoy. Yu Ruifeng said with some nostalgia, with your aptitude, if you can cultivate in the dragon vein for a period of time, it won't be difficult for you to reach the gang spirit realm. In the future, when you have enough qualifications and strength, you can take over my position. Lang Shiqi finally understood what he was going to do. The elite meeting was actually to train the geniuses of the Dark Thunder Guards and the discipline department of the Thunderflame dynasty. The key point was the test. The winner's cultivation and status would be greatly improved, and he would reach the sky in one step. The loser could only go back the same way he came. Martial uncle, do you know what the test is? Lang Shiqi asked the key point directly. Yu Ruifeng shook his head slightly and said, as for the content of the test, it is different every time. I'm not sure, but it must be the kind of task that tests multiple abilities at the same time. But I have some guesses about the test this time. Just guesses. I'm all ears. In the past, the elite meeting was held in the Imperial City, but I received news that it will be held in Donglin Town this time. Donglin Town? Lang Shiqi's eyes flashed. Donglin Town was the prefecture of Donglin County. This time, the elite meeting was held in Donglin County. He didn't expect that after nearly a year, he would go back to Donglin County again. He thought to himself, well, there are still some grievances in Donglin County that haven't been solved. Yu Ruifeng continued, as far as I know, His Majesty is not in good health and is getting worse and worse. This elite meeting held in Donglin Town may be related to this. Hearing this, Lang Shiqi's thoughts raced. This situation was a bit similar to Zhu Lu country. As long as there was something wrong with His Majesty's health, the most important and urgent thing now was to fight for the throne. But Lang Shiqi didn't specially learn about the relationship between the princes in the dynasty, and he was not interested in learning about it. But this elite meeting might be involved in the fight for the throne. This was an unfathomable whirlpool. Once he was involved, he would be smashed to pieces if he was careless. This gave Lang Shiqi a headache. But you don't have to worry. Yu Ruifeng also noticed Lang Shiqi's strangeness and said, even if His Majesty is ill, he can still hold on for a few years. According to my guess, His Majesty wants to pave the way for the next generation before he dies. Donglin County is rich in terrain and has a sea area. It can be said to be a big piece of meat. But this piece of meat has been divided up by the major forces in Donglin County. When it comes to the dynasty, there is only a little soup left. So the test you will face after going to Donglin County is probably to deal with the spirit cultivator forces in Donglin County. Speaking of the spirit cultivator forces in Donglin County, the most impressive one was of course the Mountain Sea sect. As Yu Ruifeng said, Donglin County was rich, but most of the resources were swallowed up by various spirit cultivator sections. Among them, the Mountain Sea sect occupied the majority. It could be said that the Mountain Sea sect was a thorn in the side of the Thunderblaze dynasty. Lang Shiqi was secretly shocked. Does the dynasty want to make a move on the Mountain Sea sect? His Majesty wants to get rid of this thorn in his side before he dies. But he thought it was unlikely. If they only relied on the dozens of people who participated in the elite meeting, how could they be a match for the Mountain Sea sect? These are just my guesses. You will naturally know what the specific test is when the time comes. Yu Ruifeng took out a mustard seed bag and said, "Well, our West Wilderness County and Donglin County are at the east and west ends of the dynasty, the furthest away. I will take you to activate the teleportation array in West Wilderness County, but with my authority, I can only teleport you 3 times at most. As for the rest of the journey, you will have to walk by yourself. Fortunately, the elite meeting will only start in 3 months, so there is still time. I have specially prepared the things in this mustard seed bag for you. You represent the Dark Thunder Guards of West Wilderness County. When you arrive at Donglin County, you can't embarrass me." Lang Shiqi took the mustard seed bag and cupped his hands. "Thank you for your reward, Martial Uncle." "Well, come with me." Then, Lang Shiqi followed Yu Ruifeng to the City Lord's mansion in West Wilderness City to activate the teleportation array. After half an hour, Lang Shiqi disappeared in the light of the teleportation array and embarked on the journey back to Donglin County. Chapter 423. More than a month later, Lang Shiqi walked into Shi City in Donglin County. This was the place where Lang Shiqi assassinated Lin Ying a year ago and let 9 Leave absorb Lin Ying's evil aura. Lang Shiqi did not go directly to Donglin County. Instead, he took a detour to Shi City to fulfill a promise. Before Lin Hui died, he used all his resources to ask Lang Shiqi to kill Li Wan, the curator of the Li Dojo. Li Wan was the real murderer who paid money to kill Lin Ying. Lang Shiqi asked around in Shi City, and knew that the most powerful and famous dojo in the city was the Li Dojo. Ever since the news of Lin Hui's death in the illusory spirit secret realm spread, Li Wan had taken over the Lin Hui martial dojo at lightning speed, as if he had been prepared for this. In one fell swoop, he had become the sole owner of the Lin Hui martial dojo. With the support of a large number of resources, Li Wan also broke through to the late stage of the spiritual pulse realm and sat firmly in the top position. At this moment, Lang Shiqi was sitting in the restaurant opposite the Li Dojo, eating and drinking comfortably. Since he set off from the Western Wilderness County, he used the teleportation formation to cross 3 states, but he could only walk the rest of the journey by himself. Fortunately, he had the fate skill. The journey that would have taken more than 2 months only took him a month. It could be said that Lang Shiqi had not stopped during this period. Now he could take a break. For the current Lang Shiqi, killing Li Wan, who was at the late stage of the spiritual pulse realm, was a piece of cake. A year ago, when he came out of the illusory spirit secret realm, the late stage of the spiritual pulse realm was still in existence that he had to look up to. But now he could kill someone with such a cultivation. Even Lang Shiqi was a little surprised by his cultivation speed. At this time, 3 people at the table next to him were eating and chatting. "Did you hear that the young master of the Li Dojo's cultivation has been regressing recently?" "I heard about this too. Some time ago, young Master Li Yun was already at the peak of the pure spirit realm, and he was proud of it. But now, it is said that he only has the cultivation of the 7th level of the pure spirit realm left. He really deserves it." "You can't say that. Who hasn't been young and frivolous? Don't you think there's something fishy about this?" "Tisk, even if there's something fishy, it's not something we can interfere with. Think about it carefully. A year ago, there was also a genius youth in our Shi city who had his cultivation regressing. Oh, now that you mention it, I remember. A year ago, there was a Lin Hui martial arts school. At that time, Lin Ying, the son of Lin Hui, was also considered a genius among the rogue cultivators, but for some reason, his cultivation had regressed all the way to the early stage of the pure spirit realm. Later on, Lin Ying seemed to have been assassinated and Lin Hui's cultivation level had increased greatly. He had obtained the illusory palace spirit and entered the illusory spirit secret realm. Who would have thought that he would die in the secret realm? What a pity. A martial arts club is gone just like that. Yes, there is indeed such a thing. Do you think there is a connection between them? Lang Shiqi, who heard these words, had a strange look in his eyes. According to these people, the young master of the Li Martial Arts Club, Li Yun, seemed to be in the same situation as Lin Ying. Lang Shiqi knew very well that the reason why Lin Ying's cultivation regressed was because he had this old grandpa who was absorbing his spiritual power. And now Li Yun was the same. Could it be that Li Yun was also possessed by the evil old man's soul? At this time, Nine Leaves' voice sounded, Lang Shiqi, let's go check on Li Yun first. I have refined the Wind Thunder Divine Luckstone and now I am only a little bit away from advancing. If Li Yun really has evil soul power on him, it would be great. Lang Shiqi felt that he had to sneak into the Li Martial Arts Club anyway, so he nodded and agreed. At night, Lang Shiqi sneaked into Li Yun's room without anyone noticing. Li Yun was a very handsome young man, but his face looked a little pale, as if his body had been hollowed out by wine and women. At this moment, Li Yun was holding 2 jugs of wine in each hand and pouring them into his mouth, looking like he was in a drunken stupor. It seemed that the regression of his cultivation had a big impact on him. Lang Shiqi saw this scene and shook his head secretly. Li Yun was far worse than Lin Ying in terms of temperament. Even if Lin Ying's cultivation had regressed, he did not slack off at all and continued to cultivate diligently. On the other hand, Li Yun began to give up on himself when he was still at the 7th level of the pure spirit realm. Senior Nine Leaf, did you find anything? Lang Shiqi asked. Nine Leaf hesitated and said, I can't see it for the time being. His situation is a bit similar to Lin Ying's, but not the same. Let's use the old method and test him first. Then, Lang Shiqi appeared. Before Li Yun could react, Lang Shiqi had made him fall into an illusion. Lang Shiqi released dozens of goo worms, most of which scattered in the corners of the room to isolate the aura and sound. There were also a few that climbed up Li Yun's limbs and bit him. Li Yun's body suddenly became stiff and couldn't move. Then Lang Shiqi flicked his finger, and a faint triple extinction sword chi shot out. With his current cultivation, even if it was just a sword chi, it was enough to kill Li Yun several times. Just as the triple extinction sword chi was about to reach him, a dense evil aura gushed out from the top of Li Yun's head, and as the evil aura rolled back, it swallowed the triple extinction sword chi. Seeing this scene, Lang Shiqi thought, sure enough, the method this time is better than last time, but it's still so impatient. After the evil aura defeated the triple extinction sword chi, it condensed into a huge old man's head. The old man's face was extremely ferocious as he stared at Lang Shiqi with murderous intent. Such a good body actually delivered itself to my doorstep. In that case I will laugh. However, before the evil old man finished speaking, Nine Leaf's soul body appeared. After seeing Nine Leaf, the evil old man's voice came to an abrupt halt, and he revealed a horrified expression. The nefarious elder's body trembled as he attempted to escape from Li Yun. However, Nine Leaf sneered and opened his mouth slightly. An invisible suction force easily pulled the nefarious elder into Nine Leaf's mouth. Before the evil old man was swallowed, he left behind a ruthless sentence. I left a mark on your body, just wait to be hunted down by my original body. Burp. Nine Leaf suddenly burped. Someone is coming. It's the late-stage spirit pulse realm. As Lang Shiqi did not activate his supercilious eyes, his senses were much weaker than Nine Leaf's. However, when he heard that the person was at the late-stage spirit pulse realm, he knew who it was. In this Li dojo, only the dojo master Li Wan's cultivation was at the late-stage spirit pulse realm. Lang Shiqi muttered, just in time, it saves me the trouble of finding him. Lin Hui, I've completed your last wish. Not long after, only the bodies of Li Wan and his son were left in the room. Chapter 424. The next morning, the news of the strange death of Li Wan and his son from the Li dojo quickly spread throughout the entire Shi city. This matter directly became a hot topic for everyone. They were all guessing what kind of powerful person Li Wan and his son had provoked, and their most suspicious target was the Su dojo, which was second only to the Li dojo. But the Su dojo did not care about what those people said. After learning of the death of Li Wan and his son, the Su dojo began to wantonly suppress the Li dojo. After a while, the title of the strongest dojo in Shi City would probably fall on the Su dojo's head. And the culprit of this matter, Lang Shiqi, had quietly left Shi City and was heading towards Donglin City. He was only here to fulfill the promise he made a year ago, and was not interested in the grudges between the dojos. After absorbing the remnant soul of the evil old man, Nine Leaf finally reached the condition to advance again, and had already entered a deep sleep to prepare for his advancement. As for the threat of the evil old man before he was devoured, Lang Shiqi did not take it to heart. The remnant soul's target was always in Shi City, and it was always a pure spirit realm youth. This meant that the remnant soul of the evil old man was distributed near Shi City, and it was very weak. Moreover, as long as he finished participating in the elite meeting, he would return to the Western Desolate Province. No matter how powerful the evil old man was, it was impossible for him to go to the Western Desolate Province to seek revenge, right? Donglin City was located at the coastal area of Donglin County, and was not close to Shi City. Even if Lang Shiqi used the Fate skill, it still took him a few days to reach Donglin City. As the county seat of Donglin County, this city was extremely magnificent, and in terms of area, it was even larger than Western Desolate City. Lang Shiqi walked into Donglin City, and the biggest feeling he had was that he could actually clearly feel the aura of the sea here. Gentle sea breeze with a faint smell of the sea waves blew on his face, completely different from the dry climate of Western Desolate City. The flow of people in this city was also very large, but different from Western Desolate City. Many people coming and going here were merchants from the 6 countries of the Western region. And most of the people in Donglin City were overseas merchants. However, after these overseas merchants brought in large amounts of rare resources, they would rarely sell them to ordinary shops. Instead, they would choose the shops of various spirit cultivator sects. It wasn't that the spirit cultivator sects offered higher prices, but that if you wanted to do business in Donglin County, you had to curry favor with those spirit cultivator sects first. Especially the Mountain Sea sect, Shiju Wu, and Tang clan. Lang Shiqi had never been to Donglin town before. After walking a few streets, he found that the Mountain Sea sect alone occupied 2 whole streets. Together with other spirit cultivator forces, more than half of the streets in Donglin town were controlled by them. Let alone the Thunderfire dynasty. Even the Lang Shiqi felt that this was too much. The spirit cultivator sect led by the Mountain Sea sect was indeed strong, but if they did not give face to the Thunderflame dynasty, something would happen sooner or later. Lang Shiqi's participation in the elite meeting this time might be related to these spirit cultivator sects. Not long after, Lang Shiqi walked to the gate of the Castellan mansion of Donglin town, where the elite meeting would be held. Who are you? What business do you have in the Castellan mansion? Before he reached the gate of the Castellan mansion, a city guard came up to interrogate him. This is my name card. Lang Shiqi took out an envelope. The city guard opened it and took a look, then immediately knelt down and said respectfully, "So it's the great supervisor of the Dark Thunder Guard of the Western Desolate Prefecture. This subordinate pays his respects to Lord Lu." Get up. Lang Shiqi continued to ask, "Are there any other Dark Thunder Guards or people from the Discipline Commission here recently?" The city guard showed a hesitant expression. In fact, this elite meeting was an internal affair of the Thunderfire dynasty. It was a grand event for those who could participate, but almost no outsiders knew about it. In fact, many of them had never even heard of the elite association before. Therefore, from a certain point of view, the elite meeting also had a certain degree of secrecy. Naturally, those who came to participate could not be casually revealed. Lang Shiqi narrowed his eyes, revealing a trace of coldness. The city guard immediately felt a chill on his back. He quickly said, "Lord, please follow me. We'll talk as we walk." Lang Shiqi nodded silently. The city guard walked beside him and said in a pressuring voice, "Lord Lu, people have been arriving since 6 or 7 days ago. Now there are about 50 to 60 people." It seemed that he had come rather late. However, the Western Desolate Prefecture was too far away. It was almost across the entire Thunderfire dynasty, so he had rushed over at full speed. "Do you know who they are?" Lang Shiqi asked. Everyone who came in would have a name card, so the city guard in charge of receiving them should know. The city guard's expression turned bitter. "Lord Lu, this subordinate has only been on duty for 2 days. I really don't know much." Then you also mean that you know how many? Just tell me how many there are. Lang Shiqi's tone sounded very calm, but it contained an irrefutable aura. The city guard could only helplessly say, "During this subordinate's duty, 6 lords have come. Among them are Tianyun Prefecture's Discipline Commission's Dongfang Qi, Nanman Prefecture's Dark Lightning Guard's Buyangqiu, and Luoquan Prefecture's Discipline Commission's Blood Moon." Blood Moon? Hearing this name, Lang Shiqi's heart shook. He asked, "Blood Moon? What a strange name." Lord Blood Moon is Luoquan Prefecture's Discipline Commission's commissioner. She is a woman. This subordinate doesn't know anything else. Called Blood Moon, and a woman. This made Lang Shiqi immediately think of Delta Origi. However, Wu Xiang had mentioned that Delta Origi had entered the blood prison. It was unknown if she had come out or not. Even if she had come out, she couldn't have become a Discipline Commission's commissioner in such a short time. This was a position on the same level as the Dark Lightning Guard's supervisor. Moreover, to be able to participate in the elite meeting, not only did one need to have great potential and outstanding strength, one also needed to have great contributions. Therefore, this Blood Moon was likely not a Delta Origi. Perhaps it was just a coincidence. "Lord, this way please." The city guard led Lang Shiqi into a unique small courtyard. "Lord Lu, please rest here for a few days. This subordinate will call 2 servants to serve you." Lang Shiqi waved his hand and said, "There is no need for servants. You can go." Yes, this subordinate obeys. After the city guard left, Lang Shiqi first released a few goo worms and hid them in the corners of the courtyard. If anyone trespassed, he would be the first to know. Just as Lang Shiqi was about to step into the room in the small courtyard, 4 people walked over while chatting and laughing. Lang Shiqi subconsciously turned his head and saw 2 acquaintances among the 4. And 2 acquaintances. Chapter 425. Among the 4 people, there were 2 men and 2 women. The 2 men looked to be around 30 years old, and they both had imposing appearances and extraordinary bearings. Of the 2 women, one was wearing a black dress with a veil on her face, giving off a mysterious feeling. Seeing this woman, Lang Shiqi was secretly surprised. This person was the woman in the black veil that he had met several times in the illusory spirit secret realm. Lang Shiqi remembered very clearly that he had almost killed this woman twice, but unfortunately, he failed. The first time, he was interrupted by the people who were chasing him. The second time, this woman used an extremely powerful secret technique to escape. At that time, Lang Shiqi knew from the woman's conversation that she was a member of the Dark Thunder Guard, but he never expected to meet her again today. Furthermore, they had met as colleagues. At this time, the woman in the black veil had already reached the late stage of the Spirit Pulse realm, and her aura had reached perfection. It seemed that she could break through to the Spirit Aperture realm at any time. As for the woman next to her, her blood-red robe made her look exceptionally cold and elegant. When Lang Shiqi saw her face, he couldn't help but be stunned. This woman was actually Delta Origi. However, the current Delta Origi was a bit different from what he remembered. If he counted, Delta Origi should be around 16 years old, but at this moment, she looked like she was in her 20s. Her facial features and figure had all grown up. She was like a blooming blood-red rose, so gorgeous, so captivating, but also so powerful that she could hurt people without them noticing. Lang Shiqi just thought that Delta Origi couldn't possibly come here, but in the blink of an eye, he was slapped in the face. Therefore, he still kept his head turned, and the 4 people naturally noticed him. The 2 men immediately walked over with a smile. The woman in the black veil stared at Lang Shiqi for a while. She actually felt that Lang Shiqi had a familiar feeling. However, she had never seen this person before, so she followed with doubts in her heart. As for Delta Origi, she recognized Lang Shiqi the moment she saw him. She noticed the astonishment in Lang Shiqi's eyes. She smiled inwardly and walked over. "I am the Commissioner of Tianyun County's Discipline Department, Dongfang Qi. I am the Supervisor of the Dark Thunder Guard of the Southern Barbarian Region, Buyangqiu. May I know your name?" The 2 men introduced themselves one after another. Lang Shiqi thought to himself, aren't these 2 the people who just arrived here 2 days ago? However, since the other party treated him with respect, Lang Shiqi also cupped his fists and said, "I am the Great Supervisor of the Dark Thunder Guard of the Western Desolate Province, Lu Xingji. The great supervisor. When they heard this, they were all shocked. It was the same for the Delta Origi. Dong Fengqi and the others secretly sensed Leng Shiqi's cultivation and discovered that he was also at the spirit aperture stage. They were even more surprised. A spirit aperture realm cultivator could become a great supervisor? Was it because he was really capable, or was there some other reason? They all began to secretly guess Leng Shiqi's identity, but their faces quickly raised a smile. No matter how Leng Shiqi became the great supervisor, they didn't have the ability to care. As the saying goes, a higher rank can crush people to death. Since Leng Shiqi was the great supervisor, his position was higher than theirs. Of course, they had to greet him with a smile. At this time, the black-veiled woman and the Delta Origi also arrived. The black-veiled woman's eyes flashed as she looked at Leng Shiqi and said, "I am Lian Yi, from the Dark Thunder Guard headquarters." When Leng Shiqi heard this, he secretly thought, so her name is Lian Yi. She is actually from the Dark Thunder Guard headquarters. The Dark Thunder Guard headquarters was located deep in the Imperial City. It was the center of the Dark Thunder Guard's highest authority. There were countless strange people and strange things hidden deep inside. There were also 4 general managers and the commander of the Dark Thunder Guard personally overseeing it. It could be said that those who could enter the Dark Thunder Guard headquarters were all experts among experts, the elites among elites. But regarding this Lian Yi, Leng Shiqi had exchanged blows with her several times. It wasn't that he looked down on her, but he felt that although Lian Ye's cultivation was much higher than people of the same age, her temperament and ability were still a bit lacking. After entering the illusory spirit secret realm, Lian Ye's mission was to find Su Lu and the other demonic cultivators. However, she rashly attacked Leng Shiqi. If not for the fact that Leng Shiqi couldn't be bothered to bicker with her, he would have forced her to use her life-saving trump card on the spot. As a result, she would be in great danger in the secret realm. It would be difficult for her to even protect herself, let alone complete the mission. After leaving the illusory spirit secret realm, Lian Yi was lucky enough to run into the heavily injured Su Lu. However, she exposed her identity without saying a word. In the end, she was delayed by Su Lu's expedient plan. If not for Leng Shiqi's arrival, Lian Yi might not have killed Su Lu and left behind a future threat. Therefore, in Leng Shiqi's view, Lian Yi was still too young. Perhaps she still had the mentality of a little girl. However, for such a person to be able to enter the Dark Thunder Guard headquarters, there was no need to think about it. Leng Shiqi smiled at Lian Yi and said, "So it's Miss Lian Yi." Right, at this moment, Bu Yongqiu turned around and said, "This lady is called Blood Moon. She's from the Discipline Division of Luo Quan Prefecture." Blood Moon was naturally Delta Origi. However, Delta Origi's current persona was very cold, which was very similar to her nature. Delta Origi nodded at Leng Shiqi as a greeting. Bu Yongqiu laughed heartily and said, "Brother Lu, we were just about to go out for a stroll. How about we go together?" To be qualified to participate in the elite meeting, these people were definitely the most capable people in their respective prefectures. Although they were each other's opponents, they were scattered all over the Thunderblaze dynasty. It could be said that apart from the competitive relationship in the elite meeting, there was almost no conflict of interest between them. Therefore, it was definitely profitable for them to make friends with each other. Leng Shiqi immediately said, "Then I'll accept your invitation." "That's great. Brother Lu, please. Please." As a result, the original 4 people became 5 people. Since they had nothing to do, they leisurely strolled around Donglin town. They even drank and helped each other in restaurants. It was not until the night fell that they returned. However, when they were separated, Leng Shiqi secretly winked at Delta Origi. When it was late at night, Leng Shiqi rolled his eyes and avoided everyone, quietly sneaking into Delta Origi's room. Delta Origi was already sitting on a chair, playing with a white jade dagger in her hand. It seemed that she had been waiting for Leng Shiqi for a long time. "You're really slow," Delta Origi muttered with slight dissatisfaction. Leng Shiqi laughed dryly. "Now that there are so many experts in the City Lord's residence, I have to be cautious." When he saw Delta Origi, he had countless questions in his heart. However, Delta Origi asked first, "What's your relationship with that Lian Yi?" Her voice sounded slightly cold, which made Leng Shiqi's heart skip a beat. Chapter 426. Leng Shiqi felt a bit of a headache when faced with this question. Gu San slanted his eyes and said, "Don't say that you have nothing to do with her. Ever since she saw you, her eyes have been faintly discernible looking at you." "I also saw it clearly." Leng Shiqi shook his head helplessly. He could only tell the story of him and Lian Yi in the most sincere tone. At the end he added, "It's impossible for her to recognize me." In fact, Leng Shiqi had another thought. Lian Ye's memories had been secretly tampered with by Meng Tianzong. However, this was only his guess. Moreover, Meng Tianzong's matter was a worry in his heart, so he didn't say it out loud. Delta Origi chuckled after hearing this and said, "So you two are still life and death enemies?" "I was just asking casually, don't think too much." "If I wasn't thinking too much, why did you ask?" Of course, Leng Shiqi didn't say this out loud. He directly changed the topic and asked, "Right, I heard from Master that you went to the blood prison?" "That's right." Delta Origi replied indifferently. "Although the blood prison is full of dangers, there are also many opportunities. I broke through to the spirit aperture realm in the blood prison." Delta Origi stared at Leng Shiqi. "Even so, I wasn't as fast as you." Leng Shiqi also understood that strength didn't come out of nowhere. Whether it was him or Delta Origi, they both experienced countless life and death situations to have their cultivation soar. In other words, they exchanged their lives for strength. He also knew that Delta Origi was a strong person, so he continued to change the topic. "It's really unexpected to see you here. When did you leave the blood prison? How did you join the discipline commission and participate in the elite meeting?" Leng Shiqi asked 3 questions in a row. Delta Origi rolled her eyes at him, but she still answered, "After breaking through to the spirit aperture realm, I took the initiative to leave the blood prison. Later, Master told me about the Blood Seed project and said that you had already made a name for yourself in the Western Desolate Province. So, I also started the Blood Seed project and entered the Discipline Commission. As for why I can participate in the elite meeting, have you heard of Blood Demon Venerable?" "Blood Demon Venerable? How did this matter involve this person again?" Leng Shiqi carefully searched through his memories and shook his head. "No. Venerable Blood Demon Venerable is a rogue cultivator, but he is a Sky Origin Realm expert." Leng Shiqi was shocked. It was his first time hearing about a Tian Yuan stage itinerant cultivator. Then, Delta Origi's next words, Leng Shi said, "Venerable is Demon Venerable as Bone is. Venerable Blood Demon Venerable. Is Venerable Demon Venerable?" Leng Shiqi instantly remembered that his master Wu Xiang also had another identity in the outside world. Back then, Wu Xiang used that identity to arrange for him to join the Dark Thunder Guards. He couldn't help but think that the Blood Seed project might have been in the Blood Seed project several generations ago. The Blood Seed project didn't just rely on Leng Shiqi and the others, it also needed the efforts of several generations to break through the current shackles. So, this was a plan that lasted several hundred years. Delta Origi continued, "Venerable Blood Demon Venerable's face is too big. Moreover, he has an old friendship with the provost of Luo Quan Prefecture's Discipline Commission, so he easily let me enter the Discipline Commission. Moreover, he even stood his ground and allowed me to join the elite meeting." Hearing this, Leng Shiqi finally understood why Delta Origi could come here. Although Delta Origi had just joined the Discipline Commission of Luo Quan County, she had Venerable Blood Demon Venerable as her backer. Many problems were easily solved. "So that's how it is," Leng Shiqi said. Delta Origi said, "Of course, but I heard from Venerable Bone that there may be more to this elite meeting. We have to be careful. And this time, the Donglin County branch will fully cooperate with us and help us get the biggest credit." Hearing the first half of Delta Origi's words, Leng Shiqi also remembered that Yu Ruifeng had said that His Majesty was not feeling well. This elite meeting might also be related to the fight for the throne. When he heard the second half of the sentence, he immediately thought of a person, Feng Shamo. More than a year ago, before Leng Shiqi returned to the General Pavilion to be promoted as a blood-clothed assassin, Feng Shamo had also hinted that Leng Shiqi should stand in his team. Now that Leng Shiqi had returned to Donglin County, if he wanted to use the power of the blood-clothed pavilion, he was bound to cross paths with Feng Shamo again, which Leng Shiqi did not want to see. Because he did not want to participate in the competition for the next pavilion master so early. Now that he thought about it, it was better to stay in the West Wilderness County. The sky was high, and the emperor was far away. No one could control him. Then the two chatted casually for a while, and Leng Shiqi went back. In the next few days, in addition to cultivation, he also met other people who participated in the elite meeting, but he did not get too close to them. It was not until half a month later that the last person of the elite meeting finally arrived. This person had some connections with Leng Shiqi, because he came from the Discipline Commission of the West Wilderness County. His name was Su Gaojie. Su Gaojie had actually teleported 2 or 3 counties away like Leng Shiqi, but he did not have the fate skill, so he was the last person to arrive in Donglin County even though he moved at full speed. Once Su Gaojie arrived, it meant that the elite meeting could begin. On this day, there were nearly 100 people sitting in the hall of the governor's mansion. These people were all elites from the various counties of the Thunderblaze dynasty. At this time, the entire hall was unusually quiet, and everyone was waiting for the person who would host the elite meeting. According to the past practice, there should be 2 people who would host the elite meeting, one from the Dark Thunder Guards and the other from the Discipline Commission. And they must be the higher-ups. While waiting, Leng Shiqi looked around. At this moment, those who could sit here were the best young elites selected from all over the country. Judging from their appearance, most of them looked to be in their 20s or 30s. However, Leng Shiqi knew that they were not young, at least around 40 years old. And the reason why they looked so young was because they had broken through to the spiritual pulse realm early enough. After entering the 4 realms of heaven and man, their bodies would be baptized by the power of heaven and earth. From then on, they would be reborn, and their lifespan would be extended. Naturally, they would also be able to slow down aging. If a person broke through to the spiritual pulse realm very early, they would be able to maintain their youthful appearance for dozens of years. At this time, the host of Donglin County, City Lord Feng Luan, led 2 people into the hall. Everyone's attention was immediately attracted, and then they were all secretly surprised. Among the 2 people, there was a woman in a palace dress who was graceful and luxurious. She was one of the 4 punishment envoys of the Discipline Commission, Lei Mayan. Not only did she have the powerful cultivation of unity of heaven and man, but she was also a relative of the Thunderblaze dynasty and was a princess. As for the other person, Leng Shiqi recognized him. He was one of the 4 Dark Thunder Guards, Eunuch Gao. Chapter 427. Lei Mayan and Eunuch Gao. These 2 are not only the higher-ups of the Discipline Commission and the Dark Thunder Guards, they also have very high statuses. Lei Mayan is a Junju, while Eunuch Gao is one of His Majesty's personal attendants. It can be said that these 2 are deeply imprinted with the mark of the Thunderflame dynasty, engraved with the mark of the imperial family. The moment the 2 of them appear, a slight noise immediately resounds in the hall. Whether it's the Dark Thunder Guards or the Discipline Commission, Lei Mayan and Eunuch Gao are the superiors of superiors. It's rare for everyone to see them on a daily basis. Their appearance here at the same time naturally causes a commotion. However, these 2 have grave expressions on their faces, especially Eunuch Gao, whose eyes reveal a bit of gloominess. Wherever his gaze passes, everyone lowers their heads, not daring to meet his gaze. Eunuch Gao looks around at everyone. Only when he sees Leng Shiqi, his expression slightly pauses. He and Lei Mayan walk to the top of the hall. After they sit down, everyone stands up and says in unison, "Greetings, Steward Gao, greetings, Punishment Envoy Lei." Eunuch Gao sits expressionlessly, without any intention of opening his mouth to speak. Lei Mayan smiles sweetly and says, "Everyone is too courteous, please sit." After everyone sits down, Lei Mayan continues, "Since everyone is able to sit here, you must be the young elites of various provinces and counties, and will be the pillars of my Thunderflame dynasty in the future. According to the usual practice of previous years, there will be a test after the elite meeting begins. I believe you all know about this." Speaking to here, Lei Mayan changes the topic, but this year is different from the past. Hearing this, everyone shows a puzzled expression, but they don't ask any questions. In the past, it was called a test, but this year, to be more precise, it should be a mission. Lei Mayan's eyes faintly reveal traces of cold light. The mission this time must be completed. There is only success, no failure. And those who perform outstandingly in the mission can enter the next round of the elite meeting. As for the others, they can go back to where they came from. Leng Shiqi also frowns slightly. They actually came here to complete a mission, and it's a mission that must be completed. Hearing Lei Mayan's tone, that mission is probably not simple. At this moment, Lei Mayan hinted to City Lord Feng Luan. Feng Luan took 2 steps forward and waved his arm, shooting out a ball of green light. The green light condensed into 3 lines of words in the air, each of which was 10 feet away from the other. Everyone who saw these words secretly sucked in a breath of cold air, including Lang Shiqi. The 3 lines read, "Destroy the second-rate sect, the Great Righteousness Sect. Destroy the second-rate sect, the Salt Clan. Destroy the second-rate sect, Extreme Fire Manor." Their mission was to destroy these spirit cultivator forces, and all of them were second-rate sects. Feng Luan said, "There are 3 missions here. You can freely choose one of them. Those who choose the same mission will form a team. From now on, you can't rely on the power and help behind you. You'll have to rely on your own abilities to complete the mission." As soon as this was said, many people looked at each other. These 3 missions were to destroy second-rate forces. Although more than 90% of the people present had the cultivation of the spirit aperture realm, if they all attacked together, it was indeed possible to destroy a second-rate sect. But now, they had to be separated into 3 groups. This way, it would be very difficult to destroy a second-rate sect. Assuming that the number of people in each group was about the same, there would only be a little over 20 people. Theoretically speaking, it was impossible to complete the mission with so few people. Of course, if the mission was simple, there would be no need for these elites gathered from all over the empire to do it. Lang Shiqi narrowed his eyes as he looked at the 3 missions. He had stayed in Donglin County for a period of time, so he was quite clear about the forces here. The Great Righteousness Sect was a rather interesting sect. This sect didn't accept disciples based on aptitude or talent, but based on whether or not you had the code of brotherhood. In the Great Righteousness Sect, brotherhood was the most important. The Great Righteousness Sect walked the world with a code of brotherhood, eliminating violence and bringing peace to the people. But the Thunderfire Empire actually wanted to destroy such a sect? Lang Shiqi's thoughts turned rapidly. He could only think of one possibility, and that was that the Great Righteousness Sect was a vassal sect of the Mountain Sea Sect. It could also be said that the Great Righteousness Sect was a pawn of the Mountain Sea Sect. The Thunderfire Empire saw the Mountain Sea Sect as a thorn in their side, so they wanted to get rid of their pawn first. Lang Shiqi's thoughts weren't without reason, because it wasn't just the Great Righteousness Sect, but also the Salt Gang. The Salt Gang was a sect that made a fortune in the salt transportation business. The Salt Gang controlled more than half of the salt transportation business in Donglin County, so they were simply overflowing with wealth. Such a sect would be coveted by many people, but the Salt Gang was very smart. They took the initiative to become a vassal of the Mountain Sea Sect. Every year, they would hand over 50% of their profits to the Mountain Sea Sect in order to protect themselves. Therefore, the Salt Gang could be considered the Mountain Sea Sect's money bag. Whether it was the Great Righteousness Sect or the Salt Gang, it was understandable that they were on the Thunderfire Empire's blacklist, but Lang Shiqi felt that it was a little strange that the Extreme Fire Manor was also on the list. The Extreme Fire Manor was originally far away from the Mountain Sea Sect, and it also didn't have any connections with the Mountain Sea Sect, so why was it also on the Thunderfire Empire's blacklist? Looking at the 3 missions, Lang Shiqi began to think about which one to choose. Not only him, but the others were also whispering in low voices. Some of the people who were familiar with each other also gathered in groups of 3 to 5 to discuss. Lang Shiqi and Delta Origi silently looked at each other, wanting to seek her opinion. Delta Origi slightly shrugged her shoulders, indicating that it didn't matter what she chose. Lang Shiqi wasn't in a hurry to choose, so he decided to see what the others chose first. Not long after, a group of people walked forward and stood in front of the different missions. Time slowly passed, and Lang Shiqi realized that the number of people for the 3 missions was about the same. Although it was said that the more people there were, the easier it would be to complete the mission, don't forget that the mission this time still depended on your performance and contribution. The more people there were, the lower the chances of you being able to stand out. Therefore, everyone tacitly agreed to split up so that the number of people for each mission was about the same. This was the best choice. In the end, there were only a few people left who hadn't made their choice. Lang Shiqi had thought about it for a long time. He stepped forward and stood in front of the mission to destroy the Extreme Fire Manor. There were 3 reasons why he chose the extreme fire manor. First, the extreme fire manor wasn't close to the mountain sea sect, so he didn't need to worry about the mountain sea sect support when dealing with the extreme fire manor. Second, the extreme fire manor's location was close to the Shadow Wind Ridge. If he really couldn't do it, he could ask for help from the branch's assassins. As for the third reason, Lang Shiqi still remembered that Nine Leaf had said that the extreme fire manor had a very precious treasure. A treasure that even a rank 7 great demon like Nine Leaf coveted was definitely something good. Chapter 428. After Lang Shiqi chose Extreme Fire Village's mission, the Delta Origi also stood up silently. Lang Shiqi looked around. Coincidentally, Dongfang Qi, Bu Yangqiu, and Lian Yi were also here. He greeted them and stood still without saying anything. After everyone finished choosing, there were a total of 23 people who chose Extreme Fire Village's mission. Seeing that everyone had finished choosing, Lei Mayan said, "Since everyone has made their choice, I'll talk about the mission's rules. First of all, as City Lord Feng said before, you can't use the power behind you. If you're discovered, you'll be disqualified from the elite group. Of course, we'll also prepare some necessary resources for you. You can go to the treasury to collect them later. The mission's time limit is 3 months. No matter what method you use, we'll only look at the results. If you can't complete the mission after 3 months, you'll all be eliminated." Hearing this, everyone's heart felt like it was being pressed down by a mountain. 3 months to destroy a second-rate force? And with just these few people? But if they couldn't complete the mission, everyone in their group would be eliminated. No wonder Lei Mayan said that this was a mission that they had to succeed. Lang Shiqi crossed his arms and lowered his head slightly. He was looking for a way to destroy Extreme Fire Village within 3 months, but he didn't have any ideas at the moment. At this time, Eunuch Gao, who had been silent all this time, opened his mouth. His voice still sounded so hoarse and ear-piercing. "Disperse." As soon as Eunuch Gao opened his mouth, the entire hall was shrouded in a layer of cold air. Everyone hurriedly excused themselves. Lang Shiqi's group of 23 went to collect their respective resources first. The resources were neither too much nor too little, just enough for them to use. So they couldn't count on using these resources to recruit people. This group of people quickly fell into silence. Dongfang Qi rolled his eyes and said loudly, "Everyone, since our mission is the same, and it's obvious that it's impossible to succeed with just one person's ability, we have to work together. If possible, it's best if we can elect a leader. That way, we'll be able to coordinate our work and it'll be more convenient." Everyone present was a smart person. Once Dongfang Qi said this, everyone immediately guessed his intention. Dongfang Qi wanted to be the leader himself. As soon as he finished speaking, more than 10 people responded, including Bu Yangqiu. Clearly, Dongfang Qi had already won them over. In fact, Dongfang Qi had also come to Lang Shiqi a few days ago, but at that time, Lang Shiqi did not see him in the name of cultivation. At this time, Lang Shiqi secretly shook his head when he saw this scene. This Dongfang Qi was too impatient. He did not know the information and character of everyone in this group before he rashly stepped forward. Little did they know that the bird that sticks out gets shot. Sure enough, someone was not convinced. "Humph, Dongfang Qi, if you want to be the leader, just say it. Why do you have to beat around the bush? However, if you want to rise to the top and order us around, we still have to see if you have the ability to do so." The person who spoke had a dark complexion and a strange headdress on his head. At this time, he was looking at Dongfang Qi with a sneer. Dongfang Qi knew that those who were able to participate in the elite meeting were not arrogant. It would not be easy for him to lead these people. He smiled and asked, "May I know your name?" "Ningyang Region's Discipline Minister, Di Chuan." "Brother Di Chuan, do you think what I just said makes sense?" "What you said makes sense. I just feel that you don't have the qualifications." Di Chuan's words did not give Dongfang Qi Lu any face. Dongfang Qi's smile gradually disappeared, but before he could say anything, Di Chuan's body shook and a huge amount of spirit energy surged out. This Di Chuan was actually at the 9th level of the spirit aperture realm. At this moment, Dongfang Qi's face suddenly became very ugly. His cultivation was not weak and was at the 8th level of the spirit aperture realm. However, in front of Di Chuan, it was not enough. Dongfeng Qi said in a deep voice, "Brother Di Chuan's cultivation is profound. I admire it. However, to be the leader, you need not only cultivation, but also ability." Haha, what a joke. Di Chuan sneered. "We only have a total of 3 months. Are we going to compete to see whose ability is stronger? Who knows how long it will take for us to finish competing? From what I see, whoever's fist is bigger will be the boss." That's right. In the path of spirit cultivators, strength is respected. I feel that Di Chuan is more suitable to be the leader. I also support Di Chuan. After Di Chuan finished speaking, a few people stood beside him. It seemed that he came prepared. Dongfeng Qi was very uncomfortable. Even though he had more people, in terms of pure strength, he was indeed not as good as Di Chuan. If he could not pay Di Chuan and the others, then he would not be able to lead everyone. Right now, their group was immediately divided into 3 groups. They were led by Dongfeng Qi and Di Chuan respectively. As for the last 3 people, they had not chosen a team. These 3 people were Lung Shiqi, Delta Origi, and Lian Yi. They were not roped in by either side. Although Lian Yi came from the Dark Thunder Guard headquarters and her identity was definitely not ordinary, her cultivation was only in the Spirit Pulse realm. There was a need to make friends with such people, but there was no need to rope them in. Because you might not be able to take out any benefits to rope them in. Moreover, even if you roped in a Spirit Pulse realm person, it would not be of much use. And Delta Origi had always kept people at a distance. It was usually difficult to talk to her, let alone rope her in. As for Lang Shiqi, although he had made friends with others, it was only a nodding acquaintance. Moreover, he often locked himself in his room to cultivate. Others did not have a chance to rope him in. Di Chuan's gaze fell on the 3 people. He suddenly had an idea. He cupped his hands and said, "Brother and 2 ladies, I have always been straightforward. As long as you are willing to support me, I dare to guarantee that no matter what danger there is in the future, I can guarantee your safety. I will do what I say because I have the strength." He even emphasized the word strength, and looked at Dongfeng Qi with a provocative look. Dongfeng Qi's face darkened again. If Lang Shiqi and the others all supported Di Chuan, then his advantage in numbers would be gone. Therefore, he had to rope in Lang Shiqi and the others. Dongfeng Qi hurriedly said to Lang Shiqi, "Brother Lu, you and I have known each other for a while. I also admire Brother Lu very much. How about?" However, before he finished speaking, Lang Shiqi waved his hand and stopped him. Lang Shiqi took a step forward and said, "Why bother? You guys don't have to quarrel. I will be the leader." Chapter 429. As soon as Lang Shiqi said this, everyone turned to look at him. Dongfeng Qi looked at him in astonishment, while Di Chuan's eyes were still filled with disdain. In Di Chuan's view, Dongfeng Qi was at least at the late stage of Gang Spirit realm. He was smooth and eloquent, so he could win over such a person and be qualified to be Di Chuan's opponent. However, Lang Shiqi's cultivation was only at the 5th level of spiritual aperture realm. A person with such a cultivation came out and said that he wanted to be the leader. He must be joking. Dongfeng Qi's face also darkened. "Brother Lu, what do you mean?" "Literally," Lang Shiqi said casually. Di Chuan smiled coldly. "Everyone can talk big, but you don't deserve it." Lang Shiqi did not answer him. Instead, he stretched out his index finger and hooked it gently. Di Chuan was immediately furious. A black and red sword appeared in his hand. As soon as the sword appeared, it surged with waves of evil spirit. It was a 6th-level spiritual sword. Dongfeng Qi and others were all surprised. He secretly rejoiced that he did not rashly fight with Di Chuan. Otherwise, he could not deal with this 6th-level spiritual sword alone. Di Chuan snorted coldly. The long sword in his hand slashed out with fierce evil spirit. There was even a bloody light surging in it, which was extremely powerful. The rest of the people retreated at the same time. Some people secretly laughed at Lang Shiqi for overestimating himself and provoking Di Chuan. Now, not only would he lose face, but he would also be injured. However, Lang Shiqi was not afraid. The inky jade sword was unsheathed and immediately exuded an extremely sharp qi. The sword instantly bloomed with a dazzling bloody light. Leng Shiqi slashed out with his sword. The ferocious bloody light suddenly appeared. In an instant, the inky jade sword slashed out with a harsh sword sound and a strong evil spirit. The power that he suddenly broke out was also shocking. In terms of power, Leng Shiqi did not seem to be worse than Di Chuan, and the spiritual sword he used was also a 6th-level spiritual sword. Everyone could not help but be surprised. When did a 6th-level spiritual weapon become so worthless? Ding, ding, ding. The two swords collided. Although it was only one blow, it actually made several collision sounds. There were as many as 7 sounds. At the same time, the violent spiritual power burst out with the two people as the center. The expensive floor tiles on the surrounding ground instantly exploded and flew away, turning the surroundings into a mess. Di Chuan and Leng Shiqi didn't care about this at all, especially Di Chuan. The moment he exchanged blows with Leng Shiqi, he immediately felt Leng Shiqi's terrifyingly powerful strength. He was at the 9th level of Gang Spirit Realm, but he couldn't defeat Leng Shiqi in terms of pure strength. What shocked him even more was that Leng Shiqi's attack seemed to be a single strike, but it was actually 7 strikes. It was not that the speed of the swords was very fast. If it was 7 swords in a moment, Di Chuan could easily do it. On the other hand, Leng Shiqi had actually combined the 7 swords into one, and only unleashed it at the moment of the exchange. Like a tidal wave, one sword strike after another shook Di Chuan to the point that the web between his thumb and forefinger split open. At that moment, Di Chuan could not even hold the hilt of his sword firmly. Di Chuan was defeated by this move. In fact, this move was Leng Shiqi's biggest gain during this period. He combined the 17 swords of Mount Song with the 7 swords of bloody killing that Wuxia gave him. When the sword was unleashed, it was actually 7 swords stacked together. And he could also change the sword style and sword intent at will, which was changeable and had great power. However, Leng Shiqi did not intend to end the battle so easily. With a shake of his sword, dozens of tri-extinction sword chi shot out. Di Chuan looked at the oncoming sword chi and was shocked. He made a gesture with his left hand, and twisted devil chi flashed around him. The devil chi seemed to be able to twist everything, and the strange power strangled most of the sword chi. At the same time, Di Chuan moved his body and dodged some of them, but in the end, dozens of sword chi still entered his body. The sword chi entered his body, burned his meridians, froze his blood flow, and sealed his meridians. Di Chuan let out a muffled groan. His face was green and red, and he pursed his lips to prevent the blood in his mouth from spitting out. There was suddenly silence in the field. Anyone could see that Di Chuan was definitely at a disadvantage, but this result completely subverted everyone's expectations. Di Chuan was at the 9th level of the Spirit Aperture Realm. With a 6th-level spiritual sword, he could even fight with masters of the Gang Spirit Realm. But now, he was defeated by Leng Shiqi in 2 moves. Everyone was familiar with fighting above their level, because those who could participate in the elite meeting were all outstanding people in the same level. They could also fight above 1 or 2 levels. But Leng Shiqi crossed 4 levels in a row and defeated Di Chuan easily. Then how strong was his true strength? Dongfeng Qi looked at Leng Shiqi with a bit of shock in his eyes. At this moment, he was even more glad that he didn't fight with Leng Shiqi. Otherwise, he might not even be able to take one move. Lian Ye's beautiful eyes were also full of splendor, because she also saw a trace of familiarity from Leng Shiqi's 2 moves just now. If she felt a bit of déjà vu towards Leng Shiqi, then it could be said that she had met him once somewhere. But if the spiritual technique also had a familiar feeling, then it was worth thinking about. Fortunately, Leng Shiqi had now integrated the pulse-punching sword chi and the 17 sword techniques of Mount Song into other spiritual techniques. Otherwise, Lian Yi might have noticed something. As for Delta Origi, she just smiled quietly. She had long been accustomed to Leng Shiqi's extraordinary combat power. Actually, the moment Leng Shiqi stepped out, she already knew the outcome. But she still sighed in her heart. While she was trying her best to catch up to Leng Shiqi, she realized that she was getting further and further away from Leng Shiqi. Although Delta Origi's cultivation was only at the 1st level of the Spirit Aperture Realm, she was confident that she was comparable to a 4th-level Spirit Aperture Realm cultivator. But if she wanted to defeat a 4th-level Spirit Aperture Realm cultivator in 1 or 2 moves, she couldn't do it. Lang Shiqi put away his sword and said, Brother Di just said that strength is respected. Who else wants to come and experience it? He looked around. His gaze didn't have a trace of aggression, but everyone silently didn't dare to look at him. Di Chuan also had a gloomy expression and didn't say a word. Lang Shiqi then turned to Dongfang Qi and said, Brother Dongfang said that strength is more important. I'm not talented, but as the great supervisor, my strength should be acceptable, right? Everyone present, other than Dongfang Qi and Buyang Qiu, were shocked. He was the great supervisor? The Spirit Aperture Realm great supervisor. In terms of strength, Lang Shiqi was the best. In terms of ability, there was no need to talk about it. To be able to become the great supervisor at the Spirit Aperture Realm, how could his ability be weak? Everyone stopped talking. At this moment, they had already tacitly accepted Lang Shiqi as their leader. Chapter 430. Although Lang Shiqi was now everyone's leader, there weren't many who truly believed in him. Especially those who were roped in by Dongfang Qi and Di Chuan. They definitely wouldn't listen to Lang Shiqi in secret. However, Lang Shiqi didn't care about this. The reason why he chose to fight for this position was to make it easier for him to do things. He couldn't be bothered to fight for power in this small group. At this moment, Delta Orgi said leisurely, Brother Lu's strength is truly shocking. But what do you plan to do next? Lang Shiqi pondered for a moment. Our target is Extreme Fire Manor. Before doing anything, we need to gather some information. Delta Origi revealed a thoughtful expression. If we were to talk about the sects in Donglin County, it would be Donglin County's Dark Thunder Guards. Unfortunately, they aren't in our group. Lang Shiqi shook his head. If we find Donglin County's Dark Thunder Guards, even if they're willing to give us information, we can't take it. This is equivalent to breaking the rules. Don't forget, there's another force that has gathered a large amount of information on Spirit Cultivator sections. They even gathered information on the entire Falling Star continent. Hearing this, some people reacted. Dongfang Qi clapped his hands. Brother Lu is talking about Wind Whisper Tower. That's right. Wind Whisper Tower was a very special force that was ranked in the world sect rankings. The reason why Wind Whisper Tower was special was because those that could be ranked in the world sect rankings were all extremely powerful forces. They were all called top forces or extraordinary forces. However, there weren't many experts in Wind Whisper Tower. They didn't even have a Sky Origin Realm expert. However, such a force could enter the world sect rankings and be ranked as one of the 9 great sections. It was precisely because Wind Whisper Tower had an unimaginably huge information network. Speaking of information, the Dark Thunder Guards and Blood Robe Pavilion in the Thunderblaze dynasty actually had an extremely tight information network. However, the Dark Thunder Guards information was mainly focused on Spirit Cultivator sects and Imperial officials, while the Blood Robe Pavilion focused more on assassination targets. Moreover, the coverage of these two forces' information network was basically limited to the Thunderblaze dynasty. As for Wind Whisper Tower, they had collected all kinds of information from the entire Starfall continent. As long as something happened in a certain place, there was almost nothing that Wind Whisper Tower did not know. Wind Whisper Tower's ability to gather information was publicly acknowledged to be the best in the Starfall continent. They were able to enter the World Sect ranking because the World Sect ranking was created by them. Wind Whisper's Tower also had branches all over the continent, and they specialized in selling and collecting information. There was also a branch of Whistling Tower in Donglin County, and it was set up in Donglin City. There's no time to lose. Let's split into 2 groups. You guys pack your things first and gather at the Western Gate. I'll go to Wind Whisper Tower to buy information and gather at the City Gate. Lang Shiqi said. He didn't sound like he was giving an order, but a few people in the crowd frowned. Di Chuan, in particular, let out a light snort before turning around and walking away. Lang Shiqi did not care about him. He gave Delta Origi a look, asking her to help keep an eye on Di Chuan and Dongfang Qi while he prepared to go to Wind Whisper Tower. However, at this time, the people from the City Lord's mansion hurried over. One of them, who was dressed like a butler, said with a smile, I wonder which lord is generous enough to pay for these floor tiles to be repaired. Di Chuan's figure, which had not gone far, suddenly paused. At this time, 2 people were sitting in a private room of Wind Whisper Tower in Donglin City. Lung Shiqi was one of them. As for the other person, he was a thin middle-aged man in shabby clothes. He was the supervisor of the Dark Thunder Guards in Donglin County, Wu Deyao. Wu Deyao had the cultivation of the peak of the Spirit Aperture Realm. He was close to the complete realm of the Spirit Aperture Realm, which was one level higher than Di Chuan. He was the leader of the group that accepted the mission to destroy the Salt Clan. He was very well respected by the others with his high cultivation and deep understanding of Donglin County. Leng Shiqi could think of buying information from Wind Whisper Tower, so could Wu Deyao. So they met here unexpectedly. In fact, it was not only them. After them, there was another young man with an imposing appearance. He was dressed in luxurious clothes and had a golden crown on his head. When he walked in and saw Lung Shiqi and Wu Deyao, he immediately cupped his hands and smiled. Zhuge Puha greets the two of you. You two came quite early. Zhuge Puha, the commissioner of the Discipline Commission of Shantai County, was said to have broken through to the Spirit Pulse realm in his early 20s. Now, he was only in his 30s and was already at the 9th level of the Spirit Aperture realm. He was known as one of the most dazzling geniuses in Shantai County. He was the leader of the elite group that destroyed the Great Righteousness sect. Zhuge Puha had guessed who the leaders of the other two groups would be. He guessed Wu Deyao, but Leng Shiqi's appearance here was completely out of his expectations. Originally, Zhuge Puha thought it would be Di Chuan. The three of them greeted each other, and an old man with a long beard walked in with a servant. This person was the shopkeeper of Wind Whisper Tower in Donglin City, shopkeeper Jing. After Lung Shiqi and Wu Deyao came here to explain their intentions, he went to prepare the information. He must have brought it back by now. What surprised Lung Shiqi was that he saw 3 jade slips on the wooden tray that the servant was carrying. Shopkeeper Jing took the wooden tray and said, I already know why the 3 of you are here. These 3 pieces of information are what you want, but... He did not finish his sentence, but Lung Shiqi and the others understood what he meant. Zhuge Puha said with a smile, I cannot take Wind Whisper Tower's things for free. Please give me a price. Shopkeeper Jing raised a finger and said 4 words, 10,000 spirit stones. Zhuge Puha's smile immediately froze, and Wu Deyao frowned deeply. 10,000 spirit stones. This was the entire fortune of an ordinary Spirit Aperture Realm cultivator. It was not that they could not afford it, but after spending 10,000 spirit stones, they could not make ends meet. They really did not expect the information to be so expensive. It was a bit painful to pay for it, but they could not let the others share it equally. That would be too stingy, and how could they convince the others? As for Lung Shiqi, he was calmer. Although he was surprised by the high price of the information, since Wind Whisper Tower paid such a price, it must be worth it. Moreover, Wind Whisper Tower should know their identities, so they would not dare to ask for too much. Of course, the most important thing was that Lung Shiqi brought more than 30,000 spirit stones with him before coming to Donglin County. Therefore he could be considered rich and overbearing. He was the first to nod and say, Deal. Leng Shiqi took out 10,000 spirit stones without hesitation. Zhuge Puha and Wu Deyao could only grit their teeth and buy the information. Chapter 431. Leng Shiqi, Wu Deyao, and Zhuge Puha walked in different directions after leaving Wind Whispering Tower. Leng Shiqi didn't go straight to the west gate. Instead, he turned into a small alley and sank into the ground to take out the jade slip he just bought. What was recorded inside was the information regarding the Extreme Fire Manor. His eyes flashed with astonishment as he scanned the jade slip with his mental power. The words on the jade slip were densely packed. It actually recorded everything that had happened since the establishment of the Extreme Fire Manor until now. This was simply the chronicles of Extreme Fire Manor. Perhaps even Extreme Fire Manor didn't have such detailed records. Wind Whispering Tower's information-gathering ability was truly the best in the world. Leng Shiqi calmed down and carefully read the information, trying to find an opportunity. The first half of the information didn't have any practical value, and it was all from 100 years ago. However, there was one thing that caught Leng Shiqi's attention. According to the information, Extreme Fire Manor was built on top of an extinct volcano. Although this volcano was extinct, it still contained a large amount of earth fire energy. The disciples of Extreme Fire Manor could use the earth fire energy to cultivate, and it was truly half the work. However, the earth fire energy was abnormally violent and couldn't be cultivated for long periods of time. As a result, the cultivation speed of the disciples was limited. Therefore, Extreme Fire Manor thought of a way to suppress the violence of the earth fire energy by consuming the ice water from the Extreme Cold Spirit Pond. However, the Extreme Cold Spirit Pond wasn't unique to Extreme Fire Manor. It was located between Extreme Fire Manor and Bipolar Mountain Manor. Bipolar Mountain Manor was a second-rate faction, and it wasn't any weaker than Extreme Fire Manor. There were people from Bipolar Mountain Manor among the people who chased after Lung Shiqi in the illusory spirit realm. Bipolar Mountain Manor cultivated the ice and fire dual cultivation method, and they also needed the Extreme Cold Spirit Pond. Therefore, there were many conflicts between these two forces regarding the Extreme Cold Spirit Pool. However, they did not completely shed all pretense of cordiality and fight to the death. It was not that they didn't have such thoughts, but every time this happened, the Discipline Commission of Donglin County would come out to mediate for the sake of stability. Although Eastwood's Discipline Commission's presence was weak, it was still not something a second-rate sect could afford to offend. Thus, gradually, the Extreme Fire Manor and the Bipolar Mountain Village began to discuss having their young disciples compete every 3 years. The winner of 2 out of 3 matches would obtain the right to use the Extreme Frost Spirit Pool for 3 years. This rule had been maintained for several decades now. Both sides had their share of wins and losses. However, in the past few years, the Extreme Fire Manor had won both competitions. Coincidentally, a month later was the time for the two sides to compete again. Leng Shiqi's mind spun, and a plan faintly emerged in his mind. After that, he went to the West City Gate to meet up with everyone. Dong Fengqi immediately asked him about the information. Leng Shiqi vaguely said, "Although the Wind Listening Tower's information is detailed, we still need to rush to the vicinity of the Extreme Fire Manor to obtain some of the latest information before looking for an opportunity to make our move." He only gave a rough explanation and didn't mention the Extreme Cold Spirit Pond in detail. Dong Fengqi and Di Chuan were both well aware of this, but Leng Shiqi was the leader on the surface after all. They couldn't question him directly and could only rush to the Extreme Fire Manor together. Saining City was a city located 100 miles away from the Extreme Fire Manor. Disciples of the Extreme Fire Manor and the Bipolar Mountain Village would often appear here. After Leng Shiqi and the rest arrived, they spread out to gather information about the Extreme Fire Manor. Because the competition for the right to use the Extreme Cold Spirit Pond was imminent, many spirit cultivators treated this as a topic of conversation after meals. This allowed them to gather quite a bit of information. Very quickly, they felt that this might be a good opportunity for them to make their move. Bu Yongqiu suggested, "The Extreme Cold Spirit Pond is very important to the Extreme Fire Manor. Although the competition is said to be a competition between low-level disciples, some experts of the Extreme Fire Manor will definitely go. Why don't we take this opportunity to sneak into the Extreme Fire Manor and get rid of the experts of the 4 realms of celestial being first?" "No way." Di Chuan immediately disagreed. "Let's not talk about whether we can sneak into the Extreme Fire Manor smoothly with so many people. Besides, there are 3 experts of the Gang Spirit Realm in the Extreme Fire Manor. If we are accidentally detected by them, how many of us are confident to leave safely?" Dong Fengqi also felt that Bu Yongqiu's idea was a bit presumptuous. He said, "Why don't we intercept those who come to participate in the competition halfway and then shift the blame to the Bipolar Mountain Village? Let them fight because of this, and then we can reap the benefits." His idea immediately gained the support of more than half of the people, but Leng Shiqi shook his head. A trace of dissatisfaction flashed across Dong Fengqi's eyes. "What's your opinion, Brother Liu?" Leng Shiqi glanced at Dong Fengqi. Dong Fengqi's little movement didn't escape Leng Shiqi's observation. How can it be so easy to shift the blame? What reason and motive does the Bipolar Mountain Village have to kill those people of the Extreme Fire Manor? Even though the Bipolar Mountain Village has lost twice in a row, they clearly know that they are evenly matched with the Extreme Fire Manor. It's impossible for them to rashly kill the disciples of the Extreme Fire Manor. This will only make the two sides fall out completely, which will do no good to anyone. And once we fail, the Extreme Fire Manor will be on high alert, and it will be very difficult for us to take action again. This time, Di Chuan suddenly stood on Leng Shiqi's side. "Brother Liu is right. We only have one chance to take action. We must succeed in one stroke. Dong Fengqi's idea was rejected by Leng Shiqi and Di Chuan one after another, which made him a bit embarrassed. However, Leng Shiqi changed the topic, saying, "Of course, Brother Dongfeng's idea is right. Let the bipolar mountain village and the extreme fire manor fight." He gave Dong Fengqi a way out. Delta Origi stood out at this moment and said, "Brother Lu should already have a plan in mind. Why don't you tell us?" Leng Shiqi immediately raised 3 fingers and said, "The key to this matter lies in 3 people. They are Zhu Lin, Wan Xiaoyuan, and Ji Ilan." Everyone had been inquiring about the extreme fire manor today, so they knew that Zhu Lin was the only son of the extreme fire manor's master. He was also the most outstanding disciple of the younger generation. He was already at the 9th level of the spirit transformation realm at the age of 20, and he had also learned the extreme fire absolute sword from the extreme fire manor. He was quite famous within a radius of several hundred kilometers. As for Wan Xiaoyuan and Ji Ilan, they didn't know who they were. They also didn't understand why Leng Shiqi would mention these 2 unfamiliar names. At this moment, Lian Yi muttered, Ji Ilan from the Shining City's Ji family? I heard that Zhu Lin seems to be very fond of this Ji Ilan. Could it be that you want to take action from this? Leng Shiqi nodded and said, "That's right, but it's not just Zhu Lin who likes Ji Ilan. The genius disciple of the bipolar mountain village, Wan Xiaoyuan, is also the same." Chapter 432. On this day, the Extreme Fire Manor and the Bipolar Mountain Village would compete for the right to use the Extreme Cold Spirit Pond again. They chose the White Long Valley between the 2 sides. Some disciples of the 2 sects gathered here, and some spirit cultivators who were watching the fun also came over. In the center of the White Long Valley, the people of the Extreme Fire Manor and the Bipolar Mountain Village had already arrived. However, the Spirit Astral Realm experts from both sides didn't come, only sending a few Spirit Aperture Realm elders to watch. Although the impact of this competition was great, it was still a competition between the younger generation. The young disciples of these second-rate sects were basically only at the Spirit Transformation Realm. This level of competition wasn't a life-and-death battle. It was enough to have a few Spirit Aperture Realm experts. The disciples of both sides were looking at each other with hatred. The 2 sects were too close, and they both needed the extreme cold spirit pond. In the past few decades, there had been many conflicts, and the accumulated hatred between the 2 sides was already very deep. However, the disciples of the Extreme Fire Manor were more complacent, while the people of the Bipolar Mountain Village were more resentful. The main reason was that the Bipolar Mountain Village had already lost twice in a row in the competition for the Extreme Cold Spirit Pond. However, they were still very confident this time. The Bipolar Mountain Village had also produced an extraordinary genius in the past 2 years, and that was Wan Xiaoyuan. In fact, this person had already reached the peak of the spirit transformation realm half a year ago. In terms of talent, he was definitely not weaker than the young master of the Extreme Fire Manor, Zhu Lin. However, Wan Xiaoyuan had always been more low-key, so his reputation wasn't as resounding as Wan Xiaoyuan. Therefore, the disciples of the Bipolar Mountain Village placed their hopes on Wan Xiaoyuan, hoping that he could reclaim the extreme cold spirit pond and wash away their shame. The spirit cultivators below were also discussing spiritedly. There were even people who didn't mind watching the fun and started gambling. Take a guess, who will win this time? I heard that the Extreme Fire Manor's Zhu Lin is not only at the 9th level of the spirit transformation realm, but also cultivates the extreme fire sword technique. It seems that the Extreme Fire Manor will definitely win this time. Someone retorted, "That's not necessarily true. Perhaps you don't know that the Bipolar Mountain Village's Wan Xiaoyuan is also at the 9th level of the Spirit Transformation Realm. He is even close to the limit of the Spirit Transformation Realm, so it's not certain who will win." That's right. The Bipolar Stronghold's Frost Ice Silk Hands is also very strong. Especially when it's able to use softness to overcome hardness, it has a great advantage among those of the same level. Some people were discussing the strength of both sides, while others were gossiping in a low voice. Have you guys heard that the young master of the Extreme Fire Manor, Zhu Lin, and the genius disciple of the Bipolar Mountain Stronghold, Wan Xiaoyuan, are both in love with the eldest daughter of the Ji family, Ji Ilan? Hee hee. I've also heard that the 2 of them have clashed several times in secret. It is said that this time, the two of them are not only fighting for the extreme frost spirit pool, but also for the G family's eldest Mississippi. Tisk, this G clan really gave birth to a good daughter. That G clan was originally a small clan in Shining City that didn't have much of a reputation. There were only a few spirit pulse realm cultivators in the clan. But she just had to give birth to a daughter that made two geniuses infatuated with her. In the future, no matter who this G Elan follows, the G family will definitely soar to the skies. These spirit cultivators liked to gossip when they had nothing better to do. Hearing this, everyone's body protection immediately shifted to the G family's eldest Mississippi. Coincidentally, at this time, a group of 10 people separated from the crowd and walked closer to the stage. It was the G family. Immediately, someone muttered, "The G family really came. Look, that's the G family's eldest Miss, G Elan." Everyone's gaze quickly turned over and saw a young girl around 18 or 19 years old gracefully walking over. She looked a little charming, very cute and enchanting. Although she could not be considered a peerless beauty, she was still a first-class beauty. She is indeed a beauty. No wonder she could attract the attention of two young elites and even cause them to fight over her. In the crowd, there was an ordinary-looking middle-aged man who stood expressionlessly. He was Lung Shiqi after his disguise. Lung Shiqi also stared at Ji Ilan. What he cared about was not Ji Ilan's appearance, because he had already secretly looked for her last night. Ji Ilan's cultivation was not high, only at the pure spirit realm. After Lung Shiqi infiltrated the Ji family, he immediately used an illusion to control her and gave her a few instructions. It could be said that whether his plan could proceed smoothly or not depended on Ji Ilan's performance today. He came today to see if the outcome would be as he expected. Lung Shiqi was not worried that Ji Ilan would go against his wishes, because the lives of everyone in the Ji family were also tied to Ji Ilan. Seeing Ji Ilan appear, a simple-looking youth from the Twin Extreme Mountain village immediately waved at her in high spirits. Ji Ilan also quietly smiled at him, causing the youth to smile even more excitedly. This youth was Wan Xiaoyuan. At the same time, on the Extreme Volcano Village's side, a youth wearing a fiery red robe and holding a sword revealed a disdainful smile. He was the young village lord, Zhu Lin. A person beside Zhu Lin sneered and said, "Those idiots from the bipolar stronghold thought that they had the opportunity to obtain the extreme frost spirit pool. Little did they know that young Manor Lord had already opened up the spirit sea and reached the half-step spirit pulse realm. This time, whether it is the cold spirit pond or the young miss of the Ji family, they are all yours." Humph, that Wan Xiaoyuan even dared to make a move against me a while ago. If it wasn't for father not allowing me to reveal my true strength, I would have already taught him a lesson. But this is also good. Today, I will properly teach him how to behave in front of everyone. I will also let him know who is qualified to obtain Elan, and who is the strongest genius in Shining City. The disciples of the Extreme Volcano Village were all praising Zhu Lin. Not long after, the Spirit Aperture Realm experts from both sides went on stage to announce the official start of the competition. There were a total of 3 rounds, and the winner would win 2 out of 3 rounds. In the first and second rounds, both sides won 1 round each. Soon, it was time for the most crucial third round. This time, it was Zhu Lin and Wan Xiaoyuan who went on stage. They were also the people who were entrusted with the greatest hope. The two of them glared at each other as soon as they went on stage. It was obvious that they had accumulated grievances for a long time. They didn't waste any time and directly started to fight. Wan Xiaoyuan waved his hands and used one of the ultimate techniques of the Twin Extreme Mountain Village, the Frost Ice Silk Hands. A large amount of spirit energy surged out like silk. Once entangled, it would become tighter and tighter. Moreover, there were also traces of cold air. It was a type of spirit technique that combined killing and trapping into one. However, Zhu Lin sneered. He unsheathed his long sword, and as the scarlet-red sword light scattered, a fiery aura immediately surrounded it. The violent sword chi slashed out and instantly shattered the spirit energy of Wan Xiaoyuan's Frost Ice Silk Hands, forcing him to retreat. Wan Xiaoyuan and everyone else were shocked. Half-step spirit pulse realm. Chapter 433. After Zhu Lin displayed his cultivation, no matter if it was the people from the Twin Extreme Village or the surrounding cultivators, they were all shocked. The young master of the extreme fire village had been hiding his strength all along. This way, the result was already decided. Zhu Lin and Wan Xiaoyuan's spirit techniques were on par, but Zhu Lin's cultivation was higher than Wan Xiaoyuan's. This time, the twin extreme village was bound to lose. Everyone couldn't help but look at the twin extreme village with sympathy. If they lost again, they would have lost 3 times in a row. In other words, the extreme fire village had occupied the extreme cold spirit pool for nearly 10 years. 10 years was enough for them to nurture a new generation of young disciples. If this continued, the twin extreme village would probably be suppressed by the extreme fire village in the future. The leading spirit aperture realm elder of the extreme fire village also revealed a smile. A year ago, 9 Leaves swallowed a large amount of resources from their collection, causing the sect to be in a serious deficit. Some people had already started to have their own thoughts. After today's battle, not only could they continue to use the extreme cold spirit pool for 3 years after winning, they could also stabilize the people's hearts. No matter how one looked at it, it was a joyous occasion. On the stage, Zhu Lin sneered, "Wan Xiaoyuan, don't forget what you said a few days ago. If you lose, stay away from Elan. She will be your sister-in-law in the future." Wan Xiaoyuan's temperament was originally rather simple. Furthermore, he devoted himself to cultivation all year round, so his shrewdness was rather shallow. Being ridiculed by Zhu Lin, he was so angry that his face turned red. He said angrily, "So what if you're half-step spirit pulse realm? If you have the ability, let's have a life-and-death battle today." "Ha ha!" Zhu Lin laughed maniacally. "With just you? If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." Wan Xiaoyuan took the initiative to attack. The frost ice silk hand shook out threads of icy qi. The power was soft and abnormally tough, penetrating the body with ice. Seeing this, Zhu Lin was happy because although this move looked powerful, in reality, Wan Xiaoyuan was already in a mess. His spirit technique was full of flaws. He slashed out with his spirit sword, and blazing sword qi surged out. When he attacked, he already had a trace of the demeanor of a spirit pulse realm expert. Wan Xiaoyuan was completely suppressed by Zhu Lin in the blink of an eye, and it didn't take long for him to show signs of defeat. Anyone with discerning eyes could see that Wan Xiaoyuan was bound to lose. The bipolar mountain stronghold was also bound to lose. However, an obscure killing intent flashed through Zhu Lin's eyes. The bipolar mountain manor had been at odds with their extreme fire manor for a very long time now. Moreover, not only did Wan Xiaoyuan compete with him for the cold pond, but he also competed with him for the woman. Murderous intent had already appeared in his heart. Although in the past, both sides would not kill each other in the arena battles, which would definitely become a situation where they would fight to the death, Wan Xiaoyuan had personally said that it would be a life-and-death battle between them. Since that was the case, then don't blame him for being cruel. When Wan Xiaoyuan's strength was exhausted, Zhu Lin's sword form suddenly changed, turning to stab at Wan Xiaoyuan's qi. This time, the people of the bipolar village were really frightened. If this sword really pierced through, then Wan Xiaoyuan's qi would be destroyed and he would become a cripple. Their bipolar mountain manor's most talented disciple of this generation would fall, and the bipolar mountain manor would fall into a predicament of lacking in manpower for the next few years. The bipolar mountain manor's spirit aperture realm elder coldly snorted. He pointed from afar, and a cold energy suddenly shot out, instantly shattering Zhu Lin's long sword. He said coldly, "Zhu Lin, what is the meaning of this?" "Humph." At this moment, the extreme fire manor's elder also stood out. "What is the meaning of this?" Previously, these two had already agreed to a life-and-death battle. Since it's a life-and-death battle, naturally, life and death are up to fate. You rashly intervened and broke the rules. You! At this moment, Wan Xiaoyuan seemed to have lost all his strength as he said dejectedly, "Elderly, there's no need to say any more. I've lost. I've lost face for the sect." Hearing this, Zhu Lin laughed. "Haha, you let me win." The extreme fire manor's elder said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Elderly, I'm sorry. Our extreme fire manor will have to use this extreme cold spirit pond for another 3 years. Elder Li and all the bipolar mountain manor's disciples had gloomy expressions. Not only did they lose the extreme cold spirit pond, but they had lost 3 times in a row. The bipolar mountain manor's face was completely lost. Wan Xiaoyuan looked at Zhu Lin's arrogant face and had an impulse in his heart. He said, "So what if you won? You don't know that Elan and I have already pledged our lives to each other. It's impossible for her to be with you." "What did you say? I don't believe it." Zhu Lin's expression changed. He simply walked to Ji Elan's side and asked, "Elan, he's lying, right?" Wan Xiaoyuan didn't say anything, but looked at Ji Elan affectionately. Ji Elan's face blossomed into a brilliant smile and said, "Why would I pledge my life to Wan Xiaoyuan? In my heart, Brother Zhu is the true genius. He's the one I can entrust my life to." Hearing this, Zhu Lin smiled complacently, while Wan Xiaoyuan's eyes were suddenly bloodshot, full of disbelief and despair. Unexpectedly, Ji Elan didn't even look at him. Instead, she walked to Zhu Lin's side and made her position clear. Wan Xiaoyuan opened his mouth wide, as if he wanted to say something. Zhu Lin, however, burst into laughter. He held Ji Elan in his arms in front of everyone and sneered, "Did you hear that? Elan said that I'm the one who's destined for her. And you're just a defeated opponent. You'd better get lost in the future and don't wander around in front of Elan. Soon, she'll be my wife." Ha! Ji Elan was held in Zhu Lin's arms. There was a hint of struggle in the depths of her eyes, but she still gave up. Because the person who broke into her room a few nights ago was too terrifying. She had to do things according to that person's request. Otherwise, hundreds of people in the Ji family would die. Seeing this scene, Wan Xiaoyuan was furious. He quickly rushed over and shouted, "Bastard! Let go of Elan." The crowd immediately opened up a path for him and looked at him with a look of watching a good show. Today's matter was really explosive. It was enough for them to gossip for a long time. Elder Li of the Bipolar Mountain stronghold immediately reached out and grabbed him back, earnestly persuading him, "Xiaoyuan, a real man doesn't have to worry about not having a wife. When we go back, I'll ask the sect master to arrange a good marriage for you. It's definitely better than Ji Elan." Wan Xiaoyuan didn't listen to a single word of these words. He stared at the complacent Zhu Lin, pushed Elder Li away, and ran away. Elder Li shook his head and didn't chase after him. Today's matter was really a big blow to Wan Xiaoyuan. It was good to let him calm down. As for the others, they also chatted with each other and left. The competition ended hastily. The corner of Lang Shiqi's mouth rose slightly. His plan could finally be carried out smoothly. Chapter 434. In a dense forest in the depths of White Long Valley, Wan Xiaoyuan's heart was filled with resentment and shame. Not only was he defeated by the person he hated the most in the arena, but his favorite woman was also snatched away. Zhu Lin even hugged Ji Elan in public. This kind of blow made Wan Xiaoyuan, who had always been ignorant of worldly affairs, go crazy. What made him feel even more humiliated was that Ji Elan had clearly promised him a few nights ago that she would be with him, but she actually changed her mind today. Wan Xiaoyuan didn't hate Ji Elan. He only felt that Zhu Lin must have forced Ji Elan behind her back. It must be. He hated it. He hated it so much. He hated Zhu Lin for going too far, and hated his own incompetence even more. Ah! Wan Xiaoyuan roared like a madman, wildly pounding the trees and boulders around him with his fists. He didn't use any spiritual power, only the strength of his physical body. However, he didn't cultivate any body-refining techniques, so it didn't take long for his hands to be badly mangled. However, he didn't seem to notice it and continued to vent there, as if these trees were Zhu Lin. What a joke! You can't beat others, so you came here to compete with Shermu. You're really useless. At this time, a disdainful voice with a hint of ridicule sounded. Who? Wan Xiaoyuan turned around abruptly and saw a middle-aged man in gray with an ordinary face standing there. He had never seen this person before. This person was naturally Lang Shiqi. He said indifferently, "You don't need to know who I am. I just want to ask you, do you hate Zhu Lin?" "Of course I do," Wan Xiaoyuan said hatefully. "Since you hate him so much, you need to cultivate diligently. One day, you will be stronger than him and defeat him with your own strength. Take back the glory that should belong to you and take back the woman that should belong to you. But what you're doing now, what does it mean to be a coward? Lang Shiqi's tone was very flat, but there seemed to be some kind of strange rhythm in his words. Lang Shiqi used illusion techniques more naturally and freely. In his every gaze and every word, there was a trace of illusion technique mixed in. He wanted to subtly magnify the hatred in Wan Xiaoyuan's heart. Wan Xiaoyuan's eyes turned red from Lang Shiqi's words. His nails dug deep into his palms and even pierced his skin, causing blood to flow out. He didn't say a word, and his face revealed a look of struggle. In the end, he was dejected and disheartened. The other party was right. He was indeed a coward. He didn't have the confidence to defeat Zhu Lin, and he might not have a chance in the future. Zhu Lin had already refined his spirit sea before him. Perhaps in a few years' time, Zhu Lin would be able to break through the spiritual pulse realm and become an expert of the 4 levels of the sky-human realm. On the other hand, he, Wan Xiaoyuan, had yet to even condense his spiritual sea. He would only be pulled further and further apart. What could he use to defeat Zhu Lin? Seeing him like this, Lang Shiqi said, "Am I right? But I still have the same question. Do you want revenge?" "Of course I do. I even dream about it." Wan Xiaoyuan roared. "But what's the use of dreaming about it? My cultivation is not as good as his. I can't defeat him." "Who said that you can't defeat him just because your cultivation is not as good as his?" Lang Shiqi shook his head and said, "There are many battles in this world where the weak wins against the strong. As long as you have a powerful spiritual technique, you can completely defeat Zhu Lin. Such a spiritual technique has to be at least level 5 or above. The sect has it, but the elders definitely won't give it to me," Wan Xiaoyuan said dejectedly. Lang Shiqi's eyes locked onto Wan Xiaoyuan's and said, "If you really want to learn, I can teach you." As soon as he said this, Wan Xiaoyuan's body immediately paused, and he looked at Lang Shiqi warily. One who was unaccountably solicitous was hiding evil intentions. Moreover, spiritual techniques were like cultivation techniques. They were all secrets of the sect, and ordinary people couldn't even find them. Now, this stranger in front of him actually wanted to teach him a powerful spiritual technique. No matter how simple Wan Xiaoyuan was, he wasn't stupid. He asked warily, "Who exactly are you? What's your purpose in doing this?" "I'm just a passerby. When I saw you being humiliated like this, I just wanted to help you." At this point, Lang Shiqi's eyes faintly flashed with a 5-colored light. "You don't have to be so nervous. I'm everywhere and have no fixed residence. I'm only going to teach you a spiritual technique. I'm not asking you to be my disciple, nor do I need you to pay anything. Just take it that I want to form a good relationship with you. I'll still say the same thing. Do you want to take revenge and wash away your humiliation?" The 5-colored light in Lang Shiqi's eyes became even brighter. However, Wan Xiaoyuan seemed to be unaware of this. His expression became a little stiff. However, when he heard that he would avenge his humiliation, his eyes suddenly erupted with shocking hatred. Wan Xiaoyuan nodded deeply. Seeing this, Lang Shiqi laughed inwardly. Under the bewitchment of the illusion, Wan Xiaoyuan had finally taken the bait. Lang Shiqi crossed his arms and said, "The spiritual technique I'm going to teach you is actually somewhat related to your bipolar mountain village. Watch carefully." With that, Lang Shiqi's aura condensed and he displayed the power of the peak of the spirit transformation realm. Then, he moved both of his hands, and suddenly, hundreds and thousands of threads of spiritual power with cold aura surged out. These threads of cold aura changed endlessly. Sometimes, they were as indestructible as sharp spears, and sometimes, they were as tough as willow branches. However, no matter what they looked like, the terrifying cold power contained within them froze all the surrounding trees and stones into ice. With a wave of his hand, Lang Shiqi turned the area within 100 feet into a cold hell. Wan Xiaoyuan was dumbfounded. Was this the destructive power of a spirit transformation realm cultivator? He could also see that the spiritual technique Lang Shiqi used was indeed similar to the extreme cold ice silk hands he cultivated. In front of this spiritual technique, the extreme cold ice silk hands was simply child's play. If he learned this spiritual technique, even if Zhu Lin was a half-step spirit vein realm cultivator, he was confident he could easily defeat him. After recovering from his shock, Wan Xiaoyuan immediately revealed a look of ecstasy. He clasped his hands and said, "Senior, Are you really going to teach me this spiritual technique? Lang Shiqi continued to maintain the illusion, and his voice was filled with temptation. Yes, I might as well tell you that my ancestor and your bipolar mountain village's ancestor have a lot of connections. My cold underworld Thousand Silk Hands was born from the extreme cold ice Silk Hands, so you can't be considered stealing it. Moreover, you have the foundation of the extreme cold ice Silk Hands, so you will learn it very quickly. When Wan Xiaoyuan heard this, he suddenly realized that this senior was related to the sect. The last trace of vigilance in his heart finally dropped. However, you must not tell anyone else about me teaching you this spiritual technique, not even your elders. Can you do it? Wan Xiaoyuan immediately said, Please rest assured, senior, I won't tell anyone. Lang Shiqi waved his hand and said, Very good, I'll teach you the spiritual technique first. Go back and comprehend it. In the future, you can come here to find me every 2 days. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.